2025. It's just gone 7 minutes after 6. And good morning to you. You're listening to SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. We are leading the conversations that move us. Welcome to it, the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Coming up on the show this morning, let me tell you some of the main stories that we will cover and give you some milestones of where we are going in delivering your morning brief. Well, a new front has opened in the series of political and policy battles that are raging between the main political parties in the national governing coalition known as the Government of National Unity, that is the ANC and the DA. This time around, the Democratic Alliance, the DA, is heading to the Gauteng division of the High Court in Pretoria, and that's happening this morning. And the intention of it all is to challenge the constitutionality of the Employment Equity Amendment Act on the grounds that, as argued by the DA, it will worsen unemployment and economic decline. The party basically arguing that the act vests in the Minister of Labour, what it describes as totalitarian powers to set national workplace transformation targets and numbers that amount, in the view of the DA, to race-based quotas that will harm job creation, deter investment, and unfairly discriminate against certain segments of our population. So that is the case that will be made by the DA in court this morning. But as you can imagine and expect, the war of words between the main protagonists inside the Government of National Unity is well and truly on. The ANC, for its part, accusing the DA of being anti-transformation and being against redress of past injustices. So what we'll do is at 8:10, we'll speak to Thembinkosi Mkhaliphi, who is the Deputy Director General for Labour Policy and Industrial Relations at the Department of Employment and Labour, and we'll bring this Employment Equity Amendment Act a bit under the spotlight. We did that, I think, about a week or two ago, but this time around we'll get the perspective from the Department of Labour, just what the rationale is for this act, as well as the new regulations that were promulgated recently, how they stack up against what our constitution allows and doesn't allow. So my conversation with Thembinkosi Mkhaliphi at about 8:10 or thereabouts this morning. Remember the 22 laptops that the Mpumalanga Provincial Education Department recently bought at a staggering 2 million rand, or just over 91,000 rand per laptop? Well, it turns out that if you suspected that something was off about that tender, you were right. The province's Premier, Mandla Ndlovu, yesterday releasing the findings of an investigation into the procurement of those laptops, as well as, the outcomes of the investigation done by his office's Integrity and Forensic Investigation Unit. Among what was found in that investigation is that the service provider who supplied the laptops charged for a higher spec model, only to deliver laptops of a lower specification and quality. So in the process, then securing this huge markup for themselves. So we'll have a conversation at 7:10 at the start of the second hour with Megis Kosana, who is the Director General in the Office of the Premier of Mpumalanga, to just give us an update on how far that investigation has gone. And speaking of laptops then, in a unanimous and historic decision, the Constitutional Court declaring that the blanket ban preventing prisoners from using personal computers in their cells for educational purposes, that blanket ban is unconstitutional, and the court directing that the National Commissioner of Correctional Services must revise the policy within a year, and affirming the fundamental right of inmates to further education under our country's constitution. So that we'll look at with Miles Budu a bit later on in the show. He will weigh in on the outcome from that. So that in a nutshell is where we are going, among the main stories that we will cover. Of course, a lot more in between. But as usual, the team is at full strength this morning. Jolani Tolo Ngwepe is at the news desk. Rob Byrne on your traffic. Zaikan is watching your sport. Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief, and that's coming up shortly. Ndauleng Lechela has your business and market updates covered, and Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning or thereabouts. As usual, I'll take your calls. Call me on 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X, SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, and that is SAFM Radio. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this Tuesday morning briefing session started.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to be defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper. It's an absolute beauty. It's an absolute beauty from Musa.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Absolutely magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heap near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 14 minutes after 6. Let's give you your morning brief in brief with Melissa Puta now. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with a story that we touched on a few times on the show, and it has continued to be an issue of concern. The search for Aseri Ndlovu, this journalist and his partner who disappeared, it's been quite a while now, a few weeks back. Tell us what's the latest that we're hearing from the police around that.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. So there has been development in this case. 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with the disappearance of the journalist Aseri Ndlovu and his partner, which were both last seen on the 18th of February. A joint police operation over the past weekend led to the arrest. And amongst the arrested is the last person who was seen with the couple and a mechanic from KwaMhlanga who was found with vehicle parts linked to Ndlovu. The case was initially a missing persons case, but has now been reclassified as a kidnapping and car hijacking case, with further charges expected to be added. One of the suspects is expected to appear in court today, and investigations are continuing because the couple has still not been found as yet.
Sure, yeah. And everyone continues to be concerned for their plight, and hopefully there'll be a resolution in that case quite soon. Tell me about former referee Ace Ngobo. This took many people by surprise, and many people have been shocked by the developments around Ace Ngobo.
Yes, so this is quite a shocking one. Yesterday, Ace Ngobo and his wife, Salome Ngobo, appeared in the Bellville Magistrates Court facing 3 counts of fraud and money laundering. The couple is accused of fraudulently securing over 50 million from Petro SA's corporate social investment program, which is intended for school infrastructure projects in the Eastern Cape. The funds were funneled through unregistered entities with misrepresentations made to Petro SA and construction found to be substandard. So the couple was, pretending to be representing a number of schools, saying that they're the ones that are leading the project for them, only to find that this was not true. Bail was set at 50,000 for Ace and 30,000 for his wife, and the case was postponed to the 29th of May for further investigation.
Yeah, and the next story, I will not forget, Melissa, that you forgot, you refused to profile my writing on this particular story on the show. The 300 officers of the EMPD, we recently wrote about it, me and Stanley Malemacha recently, but now some developments that are totally unrelated to what we wrote about. Tell me what is happening.
So over 300 officers from the EMPD are facing potential dismissal after being served with pre-dismissal notices. This follows their involvement in the illegal strike which took place in March, during which they blocked major routes in Ekurhuleni. The officers have been protesting over salary adjustments, overtime compensation, and working conditions. The city has now initiated disciplinary action against those who participated.
All right. Lastly, Melissa, tell me about this flooding in the areas around the Vaal. It's come under the spotlight, but I imagine that communities are continuing to deal with the aftermath of the recent flooding.
Yes, so this is a story we've been watching quite closely. Residents and businesses along the Vaal River, particularly in Bloemhof, are facing long-term economic challenges due to the recent flooding. The town is reliant on agriculture and tourism. However, they've been hit quite hard by the two flood surges in the past months. The opening of multiple floodgates has led to severe flooding, damaging their properties, crops, and tourism-related businesses. We will be talking to the mayor of Lekwatiemane local municipality just to find out more about the impact, and the problems that the community is facing, following the floods in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that interview is coming up in the third hour of the show at about 8:20 or thereabouts. Melissa, thank you for that. That is Melissa Puta with your morning brief in brief, just completing the picture for you, including some of the stories that we are not necessarily able to get to this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, here's how things are looking for you this morning. Let me just quickly tell you what has come through from the South African Weather Service. No impact-based warnings. Let's get straight to the rest of your weather. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 22. Johannesburg, fine, 8 to 20. Mbombela, fine, 11 to 24. Polokwane, fine, 8 to 22. Mahikeng, fine, 8 to 23. Bloemfontein will be fine with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 22. Kimberley, fine, 8 to 23. Uppington, fine, 11 to 27. Cape Town, fine, 13 to 24. George, fine, 10 to 23. Gqeberha, fine, 10 to 23. East London, fine, 16 to 25. Durban, fine with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 26. Richards Bay will be fine with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 27. And Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 26. This is a first since I've never seen the weather being so uniform across the country. Just fine across the country. And we wouldn't have it any other way.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 minutes after 6. So this story has its roots in Hollywood in the United States, well, partly in Washington as well, but an impact that is global in a way. The US President Donald Trump announcing a controversial 100% tariff on foreign-produced films, citing a rapid decline in the US movie industry and national security concerns. The move has already shaken global film markets, drawing concern from both allies and Hollywood insiders. So let's speak to Thinas Ferreira, who is independent TV critic, writer, and journalist. Thinas, good morning, and thank you for your time. So the framing by Donald Trump is that when he was addressing this on Truth Social, is that the movie industry is on a decline. He's calling it what dying a very fast death, and arguing that Hollywood is being devastated by other nations. Just as a starting point, is that diagnosis correct, that there is a problem? Hollywood is, quote unquote, dying a very fast death and is being devastated by other nations?
No, he's either lying or he's uninformed. He doesn't really know, or he doesn't want to know. What is actually true is that there's a decrease in production in California. A lot of productions are moving out of that state, moving into other of the states in America, but it's not decreasing per se as American output. It's just sort of going out of California. It's become too expensive to film there.
So it's still happening. There's still a lot of production, but it's just shifting away from what used to be the base and center, Hollywood and California. And you are saying it's spreading to other locations within the United States.
Correct. And there is obviously also a lot of international productions also taking place, but it isn't true that the film industry is dying. It's also disingenuous that he said that it's filming movies or productions outside of the United States is quote-unquote a national security threat. Not true.
So if then that's the case, is this the kind of problem, the problem that he's trying to address, a decline, as you put it, in production centered around Hollywood as we've known it and California? Is this something then that can be fixed by imposing a 100% tariff?
Absolutely not. And it's also sort of disingenuous again that he's saying he's trying to fix a problem. He's actually creating a problem where none exists. Similar to the tariffs that he introduced on imported goods at the beginning of the year, there wasn't really anything wrong, and then he sort of upends the global shipping industry and sort of the global economy. There isn't really something wrong in terms of the film industry and how it works in America. He's now just creating a barrier and trying to sort of put a spoke in the wheel. It's not really that you need to punish the film industry to get them to make movies in America. It's that you need to, in a sense, sort of increase the benefits. You need to do sort of tax rebates or subsidies or things like that. You need to make yourself more attractive as a filming location to get a film to come and film where you are, whether it's an international country or let's say it's a province in South Africa or let's say it's one of the states in America. States in America like Louisiana or Georgia have given tax incentives. So production would say, oh, rather than filming in Los Angeles, I'm getting a much better offer from one of the other states in America. And the same thing happens internationally. A country like New Zealand or Australia or the UK or South Africa will say, come and film your movie here. We're making it actually cheaper for you to use us. And that's the logic that you should use instead of saying, oh, we're going to put a tariff and make it more expensive and prohibitively impossible to film in a certain place.
Is there something to be said, though, Thinas, for the decentralization of the film industry away from the United States, in the sense that the streaming services have made it such that they are now in competition with the big movie studios that used to have that dominance. But now, because of the streaming services, there are multiple film industries in multiple countries. The United Kingdom, South Korea is another example that has really come up. And perhaps that's what Donald Trump is seeing and reading.
Who knows what's going on in his brain? Remember that the film industry is also, it's not just, oh, you're producing an iPhone or you're making a car. It's also a creative industry. So there are creative decisions as well. The streaming services want to also make localized content, although they're American companies. And then also maybe in terms of the story, it's a movie in which people need to be seen in front of the Eiffel Tower in France, or you want to see them in a specific location. The location is part of the story and the narrative, and that's why it's maybe also filmed there. So where it will definitely have an impact, as you say, is the streamers are sort of very specific in increasing the quota of local content, literally in every country around the world. And for that, they are filming these productions in those specific countries. And how can you now say it needs to be American, but it's not filmed, let's say maybe in South Africa or in Italy or in New Zealand? So it's sort of very difficult to see how you sort of do local stuff then as a streaming company or as a studio, but it's not really filmed in that specific country.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights. Thulasizwe Ferreira, independent TV critic, writer and journalist.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So ticket sales yesterday were a bit of a debacle. I saw many people complaining about not being able to buy tickets on the platform that had been given. But that aside, there's a lot of hunger in the Kaizer Chiefs camp for this trophy.
I think we've all got Nedbank Cup fever, even though things were offline and crashing to get tickets. But Gaston Serero is one of them with the Nedbank Cup fever. And apparently it's contagious at Naturena. He's admitted the pressure of trying to win for the Amakhosi faithful is much different to any other club he's played for. Now, he joined Chiefs at the start of the 24-25 season following a trophy-laden spell at Mamelodi Sundowns. The 34-year-old says his move to Naturena was motivated by the desire to win, and he feels positive ahead of this weekend's cup final.
No, I'm feeling good. So it's good opportunity to win trophy. I'm yet to win trophy, so it's good opportunity to win the final. So not only me, so everyone. Yeah, we need to, not only me, everyone we need to take the responsibility, because the final is here, the trophy is here, but we need to play it more than then, like last game. But I think last game we need to control more the game, because I think we play bad, we play good, but the result is not good. So I think we need to take the responsibility to win this game, because it's only one game. So I think so.
Kaizer Chiefs midfielder Gaston Serero here on the morning brief. Other soccer action: DR Congo had a 3-1 victory over Central African Republic in Group C of the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations to boost their hopes of reaching the knockout stage. And cricket star Kaizer Rabada is free to play in next month's World Test Championship final against Australia after serving a provisional suspension for testing positive for a banned recreational substance. Rabada failed the test during the SA20 in January, but returned to South Africa in April and underwent an education program. The South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport has now closed the matter. And finally, netball news. The Baby Proteas head coach Precious Mthembu believes that the first Telkom Netball League experience as a national team was successful. Despite the final scores, the team only managed to secure 2 wins in 8 matches, but Mthembu says they're taking positives from the experience.
There are major positives we can take on taking this competition. I think largely is allowing the whole country to be part of the trials and seeing these players and how they play, and having an opportunity to be part of the trial system, and seeing the players on the different platform, not just on trials but also on their match situation and how they can handle the pressure and handle the physicality against top players. So that's the positive I can take out of this. And other positive is really wanting the country to know who these players are. Some of them were not really recognized. I think after the tier now, a lot of them will be known, and that's really what we want, to profile them and be seen, so they can also feel good about themselves and start creating opportunities for themselves.
We'll pivot to more sports stories. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning. Making headlines, Premier Soccer League General Manager Ace Ngcobo and his wife Salome Ngcobo will be back in the Bellville Magistrates Court in Cape Town on the 29th of this month. They appeared in court yesterday when they were granted bail of 50,000 rand and 30,000 rand respectively. The accused are facing 3 counts of fraud and money laundering. DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille says the ANC has never been serious on empowering the marginalized. Zille says that the DA will thus argue in court that employment equity and cadre deployment will ultimately lead to state capture and cannot be separated. And finally, e-hailing drivers in several provinces say they're living in fear. This is in light of increasing crimes, including fiscal attacks and robberies. I will have details on these and other stories at 7 o'clock.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Southern side of Joburg, pretty heavy this morning on the R59. This is a queuing pressure situation coming through from Swartkoppies Road up through Michelle Avenue and in towards the N12 Reading interchanges. Obviously looks like a problem as you link from the R59 and head on to that sort of tunnel section to get in towards the N12 eastbound. Very heavy for motorists arriving up from the Vaal area this morning. A fatal crash down on Hammersdale, just north of Durban, just outside Durban, west of Durban, I guess. The Hammersdale Road that links Hammersdale to the N3. It's a fatal collision involving a taxi. It's likely to have an impact there. Very busy around Cape Town this morning. Crash on the N2 out of town between Rappenberg Road and Jan Smuts. So that's quite heavy backlogs if you're heading out towards the airport into that scene. There are a couple of lanes that are closed. And of course, everybody coming inbound having a look at it. So from the airport through Pinelands, that's very heavy as well on the N2 inbound. M7 out of Mitchell's Plain, probably a touch heavier than normal up towards Samora Michelle. And there's quite a queue of traffic waiting along Baden-Powell Drive this morning, coming from Mitchell's Plain, quite heavy through towards the Strandfontein Road junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's brief you on what's moving your money this morning. Ndauling Lechela with the first update of the morning. Good morning to you, Ndauling. Let's start with news out of OpenAI. We're talking about a shake-up in the structure. Are we talking about the governance and leadership structure?
Not necessarily leadership structure, Thulas. It's basically the structure of the business. Now, when OpenAI was founded in 2015, it started off as a non-profit organization. Then in 2019, it then included a for-profit component of the business so that it could attract investments. Now, there's just been a lot of word around the AI streets where where it seemed like it would change the business as a fully profit benefiting business, but it's reversed that decision to allow its for-profit business to control its, or rather its non-profit business to control its operations. According to a blog post by OpenAI board chair Brett Taylor, the company's non-profit arm will continue to oversee and control the for-profit business as it transitions into a public benefit corporation. Now, it says the public benefit corporation will allow it to retain the structure of it being a non-profit, but also still maintaining that for-profit arm, where it will be able to still be able to attract those investments. Now, this move comes after discussions with civic leaders and the offices of the Attorney General of Delaware and California. The group said the decision ensures OpenAI's mission to develop artificial general intelligence that benefits all humanity and that remains a priority to the company. The PBC structure will also consider both shareholder interests and the company's missions. Now, OpenAI's nonprofit will become a large shareholder in the PBC. This change addresses concerns raised by leaders and former employees who urged the company to maintain its non-profit governance structure. Now, the decision also comes amid a legal battle with Elon Musk, who has accused OpenAI of prioritizing profits over humanity's benefit.
That's coming from Elon Musk.
Right? Very high horse.
Okay, let's move on. Tell me what's happening in the automotive sector. Is Ford adjusting its full-year outlook upward or downward?
Tulas, Ford is joining other car makers, automakers across the world, pulling back on their forecast. It is adjusting it lower, and this, of course, on the back of the impact of tariffs and supply chain disruptions. The company expects a significant hit from tariffs, with a $2.5 billion impact, partially offset by $1 billion through remediation actions and pricing strategies. And this now results in a net impact of $1.5 billion. This uncertainty makes it challenging for Ford to provide precise financial projections for the year. So they pulled back on their guidance as a whole for the year. Now, analysts currently have a hold rating for Ford's stock, indicating that the company's performance is expected to be in line with overall market expectations. The average target price for Ford's stock is just over $10, suggesting a potential 4.2% increase from the current stock price. The analysts forecast range from a low estimate of $7 to a high estimate of $18. Now, in terms of financial performance, Ford's revenue is forecast to decrease by 8.3% this year to $169 billion, largely due to the tariff-related challenges and market dynamics. However, there is optimism for a recovery, with revenue expected to increase next year by 1.3% to $171 billion.
All right, Dowling, let's end this first update with a roundup of market activity. How's it looking?
So stocks reversing gains overnight, with U.S. markets in the red. The S&P 500 snapped a 9-day winning streak yesterday, shedding over 0.6%. This as traders await market-moving catalysts, with all eyes on the Fed as that meeting begins today. Meanwhile, back at home, markets also plunging as the mood remains volatile. The all-share shed 0.29%, and this being fueled by a 1.2% loss in the industrial 25. The local unit, however, powering through, benefiting from a weaker dollar. The rand currently trading at 18.26 against the greenback this morning. Then over in Asia, those markets back online and trading in the green today, and this despite negative cues from the stateside.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back with more insights for you just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. We start at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. It was Sudan versus United Arab Emirates. Tell me what that case was all about and what has come out from it.
Refreshing morning, Tulas and Jumbo Africa, to the listeners. Remember, Tulas, in March, Sudan asked the International Court of Justice for several orders known as provisional measure, including telling the United Arab Emirates to do all in it that it could to can prevent the killing and the crimes that were targeting Masalit people in Western Darfur. Now, the court yesterday came out very clear to us, saying that that court lacked jurisdiction to can hear the matter between Sudan and the United Arab Emirates. Both countries, remember, are signatories to the 1948 Geneva laws around these issues to us. And also, UAE have to say that, indeed, this has been confirmed by the court, as they've already opposed this application that was brought by Sudan. We know the plight of Sudan to us. It has been going for almost 3 years now, since 2023, and nothing is coming up, with the ICJ ruling now against the government of Sudan.
So that's out of Sudan. In the DRC, tell me about the wrap-up of the SADC mission, at least the military part of it.
Tulas, once you hear the SADC Chief General Ruzani, then you must know that we have right figures saying that 13 trucks carrying almost 57 soldiers have already left DRC, the Sake base, and they are moving through Rwanda towards Tanzania. And we know, Tulas, that this has been a phase of withdrawal after the Battle of Goma in January. Now, the target month is this one of Africa month, Tulas. By end of May, there should be a phase out of the SADC mission in the DRC. Despite that, we know talks are still going on between Qatar, the US mediating on the crisis in the DRC.
Yeah. Last time we saw a leader have a shoe thrown at him, it was George W. Bush during those years of the Iraq War. It has happened this time around. It has happened this time around in Kenya with the Kenyan president. Tell me what happened.
William Ruto visited one of the counties, Thulas, and this has caused a tension. Whether was this correct? Was there a breach of presidential security? And there he was still talking, and then there was a shoes being thrown to the hustler, President William Ruto. Now, I remember being the hustler, he knows very well he had to maintain his posture, but at the same time, that also fumbled, as they say. He could not regain his line of thought because he was there on what we call a presidential imbizo type of Thulas to say that this is what government is bringing to you. But people just throw that shoes Thulas, and it has caused tension in terms of the presidential security. But they are still searching for the one of the person. 3 have been arrested and been questioned Thulas with this incident that happened over the weekend in Kenya.
Sure. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens, whether it leads to any serious ramifications or it's taken as a form of protest. That was unfortunate, but, nothing major to follow.
But maybe maybe they want a shoe factory. Maybe it's a sign to the hustler that we want a shoe factory. Yes, you can build us houses, but maybe we don't have shoes. As they say, maybe it was just to show that maybe you have been promising us and you have been lying to us. Then we must throw you with the shoes.
Let's talk about your historical archive. Take me back to 6 May 1951. What happened?
Thulas was the 21st president of Liberia between 1986 to 1990. He overthrew the government in the early years of 1982. That's why he ruled between 86 to 1990. A military officer, politician. We are talking about Samuel Kayon Doe. Others they call him Dr. Sam Doe. This is the guy who Thulas have done a lot in that country where there was accusation of assassinating the president for him to become the 21st president of Liberia. We know it's still under Joseph Boakai. There was a soccer player, George Weah, who was the president, Sirleaf Johnson. This is a country that has a lot of history to us when one has to think that one of their great leaders was born on this day in 1951. He passed away in 1990 on the 9th of September. Asante sana Thulas as facilitating the conversation, SAFM observing the Africa Month.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with the Africa Update, just giving you a sense of some of the main stories across the African continent.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to be defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper. It's an absolute beauty. It's an absolute beauty from Musa.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Absolutely magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heap near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
It's 7:15 on this Tuesday morning. Let's turn our attention to education matters now, and the Department of Basic Education disclosing that 464 public schools in this country do not offer mathematics as a subject. 464 don't offer mathematics as a subject, with the highest number of these schools located in KwaZulu-Natal. This revelation, made in response to a parliamentary question, has sparked concern over resource disparities and the long-term impact on STEM education in the country. So let's speak to Mr. Seleke Tlhabane, who is the Chief Director, MST and Curriculum Enhancement at the Department of Basic Education. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. What's the full extent, what's the full picture of the number of schools that don't offer mathematics as a subject? And when we say they don't, what do we mean exactly?
Good morning, Dr. Simelane, and good morning to the SAFM listeners. Yeah, the issue of offering of mathematics needs to be understood in context. In that in this country, there is no learner who does not offer mathematics. We offer three types of mathematics in the country. That is what people would call core mathematics, and that is what we call mathematical literacy, and that is what we call technical mathematics. Technical mathematics is usually offered by learners who offer technical subjects like mechanical, civil, and electrical technology subjects. So this type of mathematics has been designed to assist learners to be able to relate with these subjects. So that is the first point I wanted to indicate. Secondly, yes, the issue of learners offering core mathematics is one of the priorities of this government or of South Africa. You'd understand the history of this country where a certain section of society was prohibited from offering mathematics as a subject, and as a result, this has created what other people would say are shortages in terms of people with STEM professions. But you would understand that we have made huge progress over the time in terms of supplying the country with people.
Hang on, Mr. Thabane. Historically, when was this that there was a prohibition on the offering of mathematics? The quality of the education that was offered under apartheid is one thing, but a prohibition, when was that?
That was during the last dispensation.
A prohibition on the offering of mathematics?
Yes.
By the apartheid government?
Yes, the apartheid government discouraged that in the ways of their Word, do not teach a black child mathematics because he will not need it.
Okay, I see you're making that reference.
If I had to be very specific, in the ways of Serero, do not teach a black child mathematics because they will not need it.
Okay, I hear. So how does that factor then into the conversation we're having today about why it is that you've got 464 schools that don't offer core mathematics? I hear the alternatives that you're talking about, but how did we get here, given the work that has gone into building the education system over the last 31 years?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that we have made huge progress in ensuring that mathematics is taught in our schools. Yes, the report that you are giving that 460 schools are not offering mathematics is something which is a concern, but what needs to be reported to the nation as well is that 6,100 schools are offering mathematics, which is a huge progress from the previous story that I'm talking about. What is not acceptable is that if a school is not offering mathematics at all, something that as a government we do not necessarily condone, is that there is a community out there where learners in a community would not have opportunities of studying the subject, thus locking them out of the opportunities that are there for them to follow STEM professions. That is what we are not happy about. It's a problem that we have been working on for the last few years. It's a moving problem in that we had identified those schools previously, about 5 years ago, that were not offering mathematics, and we worked with provinces to ensure that those schools offer mathematics.
So now, are there schools that don't offer mathematics at all and also don't offer maths literacy and technical mathematics and any of the other forms of mathematics, just don't offer mathematics at all in any form?
No, there is no such school.
Okay.
A child is either offering mathematics or mathematical literacy or technical mathematics. So there is no school that is not offering any form of mathematics in the country.
Okay. So tell me about the initiatives then, because this is clearly a problem. We talked about it earlier on in the year when you were releasing the matric results and just the concerns about the number of pupils who are either actively encouraged to not take core maths and go in the direction of maths literacy, or discouraged altogether to not take up mathematics, as well as the issues around the resources and ensuring that the appropriate teacher is there in the class to teach mathematics? What are you doing right now to address that situation?
Let me give you the progress, Moses, on how far we are in addressing the issue that we discussed at the beginning of the year in terms of the drop of learners who are offering the subject. We have, in terms of numbers, been able to turn around the situation in that we have increased the number of learners who are offering mathematics in grade 12 this year by 17,500. You remember that last year we experienced a drop of 12,000 learners at grade 12. We have reversed that, and we have even exceeded that by about 5,000 learners who are offering mathematics at grade 12. At grade 11, we have increased the number of learners who are offering mathematics by 30,000 as compared to the number of learners who are offering mathematics in 2024 in grade 11.
Sure.
In grade 10, we have increased the number of learners who are offering mathematics by 85,000
All right.
as compared to the number of learners who are offering mathematics last year. But this would mean there are schools that have increased their participation rate while there are others who dropped the subject.
Sure.
Now, our focus will also be on these schools that have dropped the subject altogether to see how we can assist them to ensure that they encourage learners to offer the subject, as you have indicated, by ensuring that there are teachers who are qualified in those schools to ensure that the subject is offered. We have supplied all the necessary resources. Schools, particularly from quintile 1 to 3 schools, are getting free resources from government so that the resources are not the reason why learners are not offering the subject. They get free textbooks from government, and that we are working with provinces to ensure that we increase. And you made an indication that KwaZulu-Natal is leading in terms of these 460 schools. You'd understand that KZN is a very big project. It's a very big province. The majority of our schools are in KZN.
All right.
So
we have to leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time this morning, Mr. Seleke Tlhabane, who is the Chief Director, MST and Curriculum Enhancement at the Department of Basic Education.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy around parts of Pretoria this morning, particularly the mighty Mabopane Highway corridor coming in from Shoshanguve all the way down through to Eskia and Pethali. Gets pretty heavy around Eskia and Pethali, and it won't only be the R80 and that Shoshanguve corridor. It'll be pretty widespread, so please drive carefully if it's misty where you are. There are some queues on that R80 and XX as well, which is useful to know. The N4 into Pretoria queuing up through Watermeyer Street down towards the N1 highway, all fairly standard through Midrand. Brakfontein to New Road is the queue extent there. That's fairly standard. What we are looking at is quite a heavy backlog coming in from the Vaal. This is a busy run through these days. R59 through Swartkop up towards the Reading interchange, J12 Reading interchange. That's very slow. Durban, there's these rumble strips on the N3 inbound Pavilion Mall to Spaghetti Junction. It is already starting to build a heavy queue moving past Pavilion on your way into Durban. Yesterday, that traffic was right back into Paradise Valley all day and beyond Paradise Valley back to St John's Avenue in the afternoon. So just be aware that Pinetown through to Durban on the N3 is a problem these days with extra delays and, of course, a knock-on onto the M13 as motorists divert up through the Westville area. Pretty heavy Toti through Prospecton this morning as well on your way up the N2. Cape Town, a crash N2 out of town between Rappenberg and Jan Smuts Drive. That's causing a problem from around about Lisbeth Parkway. It's quite heavy if you're on your way to the airport, and a major backlog coming in from the airport on the N2 inbound due to onlooking. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. We spend a lot of time looking for deals, but we don't invest the same time in our health. Your health buys you more time with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that rewards you for living healthier with lower premiums and more cover. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
The KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Public Works and Infrastructure, Martin Meyer, has issued a stern warning to government contractors over poor performance and project delays. Speaking during the handover of a newly refurbished facility at RK Khan Hospital in Chatsworth, Durban, Meyer has emphasized a new era of accountability where contractors will face blacklisting for abandoning projects or failing to deliver within budget and on time. The MEC joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, MEC. So let's start with the project that you were handing over, the RK Khan Hospital. How emblematic is it of the problems that you are trying to resolve around delayed delivery and being out of scope and out of budget?
So unfortunately, it was an all too familiar tale for us where the contractor that was initially given the job wasn't able to complete it due to shoddy workmanship and just not giving the quality of work, and had to be removed, and a new contractor, the whole process had to be restarted with tendering. And unfortunately, every project I visit, there's a whole section on how the first contractor had to be taken off the contract and a new contractor given. And that's becoming way too familiar, costing us way too much money, and is impacting on service delivery in the province, and that's why I decided to act. The project, unfortunately, was started many years ago. It was after the initial floods in 2017 and then in 2022, and only now was completed with the work of the new contractor. And we can't continue like that within the province of Kaizer.
If we track back and reverse engineer, what front loads these problems that lead to the initial contractor that is appointed, on many occasions not being the one who eventually finishes the project? Is it a matter of how the adjudication processes, the scoping processes are undertaken in the first place?
I think there's two sides of it. So first of all, we as the department obviously have to take responsibility for it. It is our projects. We are the ones that are responsible for it. And then there is clearly something wrong with the way that we are assigning these projects. So we are relooking our whole tender processes that, gone are the days that it's just the person that comes in with the lowest price. We must take a much closer look at the ability of contractors to be able to do the job. But we must also help our contractors through empowerment, and then that's really starting with our contractors in BIZO, that is starting in the next 2 weeks. We're traveling the whole province and meeting with contractors and see how we can also assist them. But on the other side, we also have to admit that there's contractors that just want to make money out of government, that has no real plan to finish any projects or build anything. They're not committed to building our province better. They just want to make as much money out of the province as quickly as they can, and they bid for these projects, get the bids, give us very low quality work, or subcontract to low quality subcontractors, and putting us in this situation. We also have quite often this situation where contractors underbid, so the money then runs out, and then they complain that they can't finish it and they leave the sites. And we can't continue like that, because it really does affect service delivery. We saw that at RK Khan, where for years, for way too long, people couldn't get the services they needed. 80 beds were out of commission within that hospital. They couldn't do operations because the sterilization unit was one of the ones that we had to rebuild. And that really affects real people's lives, and we have to start considering that when we do our contracts.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. That is Martin Meyer, who is the MSc for Public Works and Infrastructure in the province of KwaZulu-Natal there, talking about some of the measures that they are putting in place to deal with project delays. 7 a.m., let's check in with Jolani Tolongwepe with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Thanks to Luz. Top stories. The Sawa PSL General Manager Kaizer and his wife will be back in court later this month. And another drone attack on the Sudanese port city of Port Sudan. Good morning. Premier Soccer League General Manager Kaizer and his wife Salome Ngcobo will be back in the Belleville Magistrates Court in Cape Town on the 29th of this month. They appeared in court yesterday when they were granted bail of 50,000 rand and 30,000 rand respectively. They're accused of facing 3 counts of fraud and money laundering. They allegedly received about 15 million rand from Petro SA to build a school and to renovate a creche in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged that they falsified documents and forged signatures. The National Prosecuting Authority in the Western Cape says it will appeal the court's decision to grant the accused bail. NPA provincial spokesperson Eric Ndabazalila.
We are not happy with the decision of the magistrate because when he made his ruling, he said the state does not have anything to say, of which is not what we said. We would have expected the magistrate to reject that application we made and then call the IO to take the stand and then allow us an opportunity to oppose the bail using the magistrate, the IO, but that did not happen.
The DA says it will argue in the High Court in Pretoria today that employment equity and cadre deployment cannot be separated, as both lead to state capture. The DA also says it's convinced that the Employment Equity Act will have a negative impact on hundreds of thousands of jobs. DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille says that the ANC has never been serious about empowering the marginalised.
They've been serious about putting their cadres into critical positions to capture the state, to turn the state into an instrument of ANC control rather than empowerment and protection of individuals under the Constitution. That's what they've done. And the two are absolutely joined at the hip. They're not different from each other.
E-hailing drivers in several provinces say they're living in fear. This is in light of increasing crimes, including physical attacks and robberies. The E-hailing Partners Council says that minibus taxi drivers also harass Bolt and Uber drivers. The council's national spokesperson, Batuka Mbelengwa, says police need to apply the law to ensure the safety of e-hailing drivers and their clients.
Drivers are not doing well. They're just operating because people need to survive. It's not even a new environment. It's not even a new climate. The criminality is being increasing. We've been at the front lines trying to speak to government for over a decade now to say regulate, because in a regulated framework we'd be able to hold people to our account. But the reality is we find ourselves in a situation where people are more likely to be robbed, women are more likely to be raped, and ongoing conflict within the transport industry between e-hailing drivers and your traditional taxi operators are going to continue to go up because they're not being addressed and being confronted.
Education activist Hendrik Makaneda has commended the Gauteng Education Department for swiftly responding to the situation at the Riverlea High School in Johannesburg. The department has delivered a number of mobile classrooms to the school after a fire destroyed 11 classrooms last week. Police are investigating a case of arson. Makaneda says it is important for all players, including parents, to also come on board.
But I think that it is very much important, to walk an extra mile. Government alone should not be the one dealing with these issues. We really want to see communities also coming on board in the form of, moral support, encouraging our learners. Remember that most of the learners or some of the learners will be writing, their matric. They're about to finish their curriculum in June. And so they really need support, especially those that are affected by a wide range of issues within the terrain.
There's been a drone attack on the Sudanese port city of Port Sudan for a third consecutive day. The Sudanese media says the drones targeted the main international airport. It's believed the Rapid Support Forces carried out the drone attacks, which started on Sunday. The BBC's Andrew Ochieng has the details.
Local media reported that there had been explosions near the civilian terminal at Port Sudan's international airport and huge fires can be seen. There are reports that several scheduled flights have been cancelled. Previous attacks on the city have been blamed on the Rapid Support Forces, who are in a civil war with the Sudanese army. On Monday, Sudan's energy minister said the RSF had deliberately bombed an oil depot in the city to paralyze life there. Over 2 years of conflict, Port Sudan has been a safe haven until now. The Red Sea port had served as the base of Sudan's military government and the main center for humanitarian support.
Recapping the top story this hour, Premier Soccer League General Manager Ace Ngcobo and his wife Salome Ngcobo will be back in the Bellville Magistrates Court in Cape Town on the 29th of this month. They appeared in court yesterday when they were granted bail of 50,000 rand and 30,000 rand respectively. For SAFM News, I'm Cholani Tulo-Mwebe.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
You won't hear this in the news headlines, but it's definitely worth talking about. Lorette, a 61-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who switched and now saves a newsworthy 725 rand a month on her 2024 BMW X1. That's 725 rand more money in her pocket every month. Why pay more when you could pay less? Get a quote from Outsurance today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Caltech. First up, the N12 passing Lenasia up to Eldos, approaching the Golden Highway, exit on your way to Joburg. That's a heavy one this morning. If you're arriving in from Protea Glenside, expect here to queue pretty much as you get up towards the Klipsrand Valley Road. R59 still busy, very busy this morning. Swakoppies Road up to the Reading Interchange area. Very misty across parts of Pretoria. An impact there on the Mopani Highway noticeable this morning. Very slow from Theo Martins down through the mist in towards Eskia and Petheli. Make sure you got extra time to get through that one. Durban, the N3 inbound starting to queue up between Pavilion Mall and Spaghetti Junction. That traffic into the rumble strips, those new rumble strips there, already pushing back towards Paradise Valley. That will just get heavier and slower as we go in through the morning and across the course of the day. The N220 Hill up to Prospectum, pretty heavily backed as well today. Cape Town, the crash on the N2 outbound at Rappenberg has been cleared. The N2 inbound has eased a little bit, but it's still under pressure from the airport through to Hospital Bend. The M3 worth a mention as well, currently sitting from Constantia all the way up towards Paradise Road in the Bishop's Court area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it's soccer, all roads leading to Durban, Chiefs and Pirates to settle the score at Moses Mabhida Stadium. And in tennis news, Yannick Sinner says it was good news for him personally not to miss any Grand Slam tournaments during his 3-month doping ban. Details just before 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Tuesday. It's good to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. Before I tell you what's coming up, I'm still reflecting on the conversation we had with Sileke Tlhabane, who is the Chief Director, MST and Curriculum Enhancement in the Department of Basic Education. Just on the number of schools that we were talking about that don't offer mathematics, pure mathematics, but offer alternatives, and the initiatives that he was outlining that are being undertaken by the department to address that situation. But I'm reflecting on something funny that happened. I think he called me Dr. Simelane. Okay, I don't want to 5 years from now be asked to produce my doctorate and I'm not able to produce it. I don't have a doctorate. I'm not Dr. Simelane under any circumstances, at least not yet. I don't claim to have one. I've never put myself out to be someone who is Dr. Simelane. I just needed to clarify that in case there's any confusion. All right, let me tell you what's coming up on the show in this hour. We'll tell you about those 22 laptops out of the province of Mpumalanga. The Department of Basic Education there procuring 22 laptops to the tune of some 2 million rand at about 91,000 rand per laptop. That conversation with Megis Kosana, the Director General in the Office of the Premier of Mpumalanga, is coming up in the next few minutes. And then shortly thereafter, we'll tell you about the expectations from Eskom for energy availability into the winter months. Basically, the long and short of it is that if the unplanned outages stay under 13,000 megawatts. Remember, you and I became engineers during this period of power outages. We now know what 13,000 megawatts is. So if the unplanned outages stay beneath 13,000 megawatts, then we are in the clear. We should be fine. But if they go up to about 15,000, then we will get stage 2 load shedding. But they are saying it won't be that bad. It will be up to 21 days of stage 2 load sheddings in the event that we get to 15,000 megawatts. So those are some of the stories that we're going to cover. And of course, a bit later on, we'll be talking about that Constitutional Court ruling that has now said that the blanket ban on prisoners using personal computers in their cells is unconstitutional. That is all coming up within this hour. Through it all, I'd like to hear from you, your own reflections on some of these conversations. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. All right, this is the second hour of the morning brief, and it starts now.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the morning brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
13 minutes after 7. Remember the 22 laptops that the Mpumalanga Provincial Education Department recently bought at a staggering 2 million rand, or just over 91,000 rand per laptop. Well, it turns out that if you suspected something was off about that tender, you were right. The province's Premier, Mandla Ndlovu, has released the findings of an investigation into the procurement conducted by his office's Integrity and Forensic Investigation Unit. Among the main findings is that the service provider who supplied the laptops charged for a higher spec model only to deliver laptops of a lower specification and quality, securing a handsome price markup in the process. So let's speak to Megis Kosana, who is the Director General in the Office of the Premier of Mpumalanga. Good morning to you, ma'am, and thank you for your time. Overall, what systemic weaknesses and failures did you identify that led to the taxpayers in Mpumalanga being charged so exorbitantly for laptops that were of a lower spec than what was ordered?
Good morning to Thulasizwe, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. What we have identified from the investigation is that there are weaknesses in the procurement system that the department is using, because we could identify that, for instance, the specification that was issued for these service providers to give quotations is the specification that was done 2 years ago. It could have been reviewed to identify whether this high specification was still necessary and needed by the department. So we've identified quite a number of deficiencies within the system. Hence, the report's recommendations and approval by the Premier is that there would be a governance structure that will look at overall procurement processes in the department.
Yeah, let's talk about that, the specifications. Is it your sense that the department needed these high-end, high-spec laptops for the job at hand, given the job at hand, what these laptops were going to do? Did they really need this XPS 15 model laptops, let alone the fact that in the end they were charged for those, but actually the contractor delivered lower spec models? Objectively, was there a need to buy exorbitantly priced laptops in the first place?
Well, from the investigation, it was established that it was not necessary because the service provider supplied laptops of lower spec, and the department accepted back those laptops, and they were used by the officials without any complaints. So it means the laptops that were supplied, they met the requirements for the usage by those intended officials that needed those laptops. So where we are sitting is that it was not necessary for us to go for such a high-spec laptops.
Yeah. And then the other disturbing factor has to do with the procurement processes themselves inside the department, and this insistence by officials that procedures were followed. Has it been your finding that the procedures were not followed? And in light of that, what is going to happen to those officials that insisted, even as evidence came forth, that procedures were followed?
Yes, indeed, procedures were not followed, and the outcomes is that those officials who were identified to be involved in this procurement will be subjected to disciplinary processes. With what end? How seriously does the department, does the government of Mpumalanga take this violation? Is this the type that we are likely to see people losing their jobs over? Well, the disciplinary processes will be underway to us. Then, obviously, the outcomes will determine. But it is classified under serious offences because this is a loss of money for the government of Mpumalanga, which was unnecessary for us. And the issue of cost effectiveness is at play. And the issue of possible defrauding government, intentionally defrauding government, because what was quoted to what was delivered, it's not the same. Yeah. So will you be laying charges, for example, against, either the officials, the officials and the service provider? Yes, indeed. The part of the recommendation is that there should be a case open with the SAPS. And we will follow that. Yeah. Tell me about the other measures, including the blacklisting of the supplier with the Treasury's register. Yes, the supplier will be blacklisted by us as the provincial government to National Treasury. Also, as the provincial government, we will blacklist the supplier. Yeah. And the recovery of the monies lost, because from what I read, each laptop was overpriced by at least 30,000 rand. Yes, we are pursuing recovery of the lost money, and we will pursue it against the supplier. All right. Thank you for your time this morning. And thank you for sharing that. That's Megis Kosana. She is the Director General in the Office of the Premier of Mpumalanga. So just giving an update. And of course, they are saying that they will bring another update a bit later on in the year in terms of the investigations and the processes to ensure that there's consequence management for those highly priced laptops that turned out were delivered at a lower spec than what was paid for.
There's a song that goes, "Money can't buy me love." And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
It's coming up to 22 minutes after 7. Expect the lights to stay on this winter with no load shedding at all. But for that to happen, unplanned outages at Eskom's generation fleet must remain under 13,000 megawatts. The power utility has given its winter prognosis, presenting the picture of a more stable and resilient power supply outlook for the country compared to previous years. Eskom does, however, predict that if unplanned outages reach 15,000 megawatts, they would have to implement rolling power outages at stage 2 for up to 21 days during winter. So let's speak to Mohammed Mahdi, who is an energy expert, to unpack it all for us. Mohammed, good morning and thank you for your time. So what is it that makes Eskom so emboldened as to say that, you know what, unless we have unplanned outages of 13,000 and above, 13,000 megawatts and above, we should be able to keep the lights on?
Good morning to the listeners. I think there have been some significant improvements with Eskom, over the last year and a half, particularly the addition now of, units coming on stream that will add quite a bit more power capacity. In addition to that, the maintenance program that has been carried out by Eskom has been quite focused, quite concerted, and in no part due to the fact, that since the Minister of Energy's appointment, there has been quite a bit of focus on improving the operational performance of the power plants. So these factors together, I think gives Eskom the confidence to say what it has said. However, we have to keep in mind that there are still unknowns. And because you're coming to the end of life of most of this generation fleet, you will have unplanned breakdowns. So they've taken the steps necessary to reduce that and minimize the risk of that. But that doesn't mean that risk is completely eliminated.
Yeah. Do you expect that we will reap the dividend of what the step that Eskom took at the beginning of this year, of basically going on an ambitious maintenance program and actually leaving a very small buffer in terms of the available capacity, which then led to the load shedding that we saw in the past few months, because they'd taken out so many of these units for maintenance such that they didn't have that buffer that allowed them that if there should be an unplanned breakdown, they should be able to continue operating. Do you think we are likely to reap the dividend of that this coming winter?
Look, I think they had no choice but to undertake the program that they had undertaken. If they had not, the consequences would have been quite severe in terms of load shedding. So, using the terminology, reaping the benefits of that, they did what they had to do and what was necessary to do. I think also we need to bear in mind, that this goal has been scored. Eskom has helped in terms of load shedding, and we have largely reduced the amount of load shedding that we had in the country. But now we have to focus forward, and we can't keep looking at this one past victory. And it was a victory, there's no doubt about it. But we now have to look at how do we get a generation fleet that is capable of underpinning the economic growth that we need in this country. And we are not yet there. So I think Eskom keep sort of retreading the story of we've now overcome load shedding, there's going to be very little load shedding. That's great. But how far are we to ensuring that we still keep the lights on if we have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of growth?
And what's the answer to those questions that you are answering, that you are asking about how we build a fleet that supports economic growth? Is part of the solution in what Eskom and the Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa is talking about right now, this planned 60 billion rand investment in a nuclear build program?
So I personally don't think the nuclear build program is the way to go. You know, when I was in the nuclear industry 15 years ago, then it would have been a good idea. But today, nuclear power is extremely expensive. If you don't do it to scale, now 60 billion rand sounds like a lot, but in terms of nuclear power, it's a small amount of money. And it's simply not going to allow us to benefit from all the related industries that are needed to support nuclear, because our nuclear program is just going to be too small. If we had a much larger nuclear program 15 years ago, the country would have reaped enormous benefits. But today, there are alternatives, and there are cheaper alternatives to power. Solar, wind, and battery energy storage, for example, can provide the kind of power that this country needs. If we spend that amount of money on large-scale battery energy storage to stabilize different parts of the grid, we would have a much more robust grid in this country. We would not have the peak time problems that we currently have, and we would not need to use the open cycle gas turbines the way we currently use it, burning diesel at quite an extensive rate. So there are better alternatives right now, and this is not the solution, in my opinion. I think in the opinion of most people in the industry.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. So not even this qualification that says they are looking at small modular reactors as opposed to big plants like we were talking a few years ago. Not even that addresses those concerns about scalability and cost.
So, the small-scale nuclear reactors have still got a long way to go in this country. We were ahead. And again, I think it was a great tragedy that we did not carry on with the nuclear double-bed modular reactor, and that we did not advance that. That would have given us a great competitive advantage globally. But now that time has passed, that window has passed, it's going to take 7 to 10 years to just license a small-scale nuclear reactor. And in that time, the alternative technologies are going to be a lot cheaper, a lot quicker to deploy, and a lot more flexible in terms of their ability to provide power where it's needed.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Thank you for that. That's Mohammed Mahdi. He's an energy expert. I think it makes a lot of sense, just the time that it will take, because it's not like you take the decision today and tomorrow you have nuclear feeding into your grid. The processes are quite involved and engaged. Thank you for that, Mohammed Mahdi, the energy expert.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Let's kick off with Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, who'll face off in the Nedbank Cup final this Saturday at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Chiefs are desperate to end their 10-year trophy drought and return to the venue where they lifted silverware. That was the MTN8 back in 2014. Pirates, on the other hand, are chasing a three-peat after cup wins in 2022 and 2023. Both teams have history on the pitch. Heartbreak for Chiefs in 2019 and glory for Bucks multiple times. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. on Saturday in Durban, and you can catch it live on SABC Sport. Meanwhile, the Kaizer Chiefs midfielder Gaston Serero has admitted the pressure of trying to win for the Amakosi faithful is much different to any other club he's played for. Coming off the 2-1 league defeat to Orlando Pirates at FNB Stadium, the South American is adamant this weekend's encounter warrants an entirely different approach.
Of course, we need to focus in the 90 minutes, 120 minutes. So now, like I say, it's different game. It's the final. So we need to focus more. We need to fight more. We need to steal more each other together to win this game.
Onto rugby, junior Springbok coach Kevin Foot has made several rotational changes to his starting lineup, included 4 players who played for the SA Under-20s last year for their second Rugby Championship Under-20 match against Australia at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Gqeberha today. Cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad's hopes of reaching the Indian Premier League playoffs are over after rain washed out their match against the Delhi Capitals. And finally, tennis, Yannick Sinner says it was good news for him personally personally not to miss any Grand Slam tournaments during his 3-month doping ban. World number 1 Sinner accepted the ban after reaching a settlement with the World Anti-Doping Agency over his 2 positive tests last year. Sinner had a first-round bye in Rome and will play either Argentina's world number 99, Maria Navon, or 18-year-old Italian wildcard Federico Uzzina. That's on Saturday.
No, I'm very happy to be back here. It has been 3 very long months. Was glad to share some great moments with my family, with my friends. We were practicing very hard, especially in the gym in the beginning. Coming back to court again. I saw there's a lot of attention. Also kind of off the court.
We'll be back serving more sport. Top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe, making headlines this hour. The South African Municipal Workers Union, SAMU, has called on the city of Ekurhuleni to discontinue disciplinary action against nearly 400 metropolitan police officers over an unprecedented strike. A dispute over salary adjustments and overtime compensation sparked the strike, which took place in March. Today marks the first anniversary of the collapse of a building in George in the Western Cape. 34 people were killed and 20 others injured. And finally, Premier Soccer League General Manager Ace Ngobo and his wife Salome Ngobo will be back in the Bellville Magistrates Court in Cape Town on the 29th of this month. They appeared in court yesterday where they were granted bail of 50,000 rand and 30,000 rand respectively. They're accused of facing 3 counts of fraud and money laundering. I'll have details at 8 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just having a look at Joburg this morning, all fairly standard, including the N1 between 14th Avenue and Rivonia Road, just slow and sluggish. The N3 from Elands in Germiston all the way through to Modderfontein Road. I've been saying this week, that's sort of the new normal these days, that you sit in on that N3, and there is an expected queue behind that on the N12 coming through from Edenvale to get into the N3 at Gilulis. The N14 is quite heavy this morning. Krugersdorp Highway between the R55 Pretoria West exit and the N1 Bruckfontein interchange. Quite a big queue up through there. N1 South through Storenville down towards the N4 Emelachlenny Highway. That's quite heavy. And if you're coming out of Mamelodi, Solomon Mshlunga through Bronkhorstspruit Road down towards the N4 direction Silver Lake's quite slow going there as well. Just a heads up about Durban. We saw this yesterday, seeing it again this morning. There's a little change in the road construction around Pavilion Mall area. The traffic heading to Durban's already back to the M13 Paradise Valley, and I reckon it'll probably stay like that all day today and get even worse through this afternoon peak hours. So just keep that in mind. If you're moving through Pinetown towards Durban, it does get heavy. Also, the N2 both ways in the Spaghetti Junction quite badly backed as well. In Cape Town, a crash on Baden-Powell Drive between Jafta Masemola and the N2 highway. It's quite a backlog both ways at the bottom of Khayelitsha on that section of Baden-Powell. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. And Ndauling, tell me about this boardroom shake-up at Exaro. What's happening there?
So they've announced the mutual separation of Khabi Masia, its former Chief Coal Operations Officer. This is effective from the 24th of April, and this after less than 3 years in the role. Now, the company assured that this development won't disrupt operations, as Mervyn Govender will continue serving as acting Chief Coal Operations Officer. Now, this leadership transition has sparked some jitters, some fears, as it follows a hectic period for Exaro, particularly after the resignation of former CEO Nombasa Tsengwa in February amid allegations of bullying and intimidation within the organization. Now, Tsengwa, of course, her departure led to the appointment of Ben Makara, a mining veteran and former CEO of Lonmin. He's been the new CEO at Exaro since March. Now, under Makara's leadership, Exaro is committed to a diversification strategy focusing on critical low-carbon minerals essential for the future. The company aims to expand its portfolio towards copper and manganese, which are crucial for the global transition to a low-carbon economy. So we could expect to see Exaro picking up more assets throughout the year.
Let's stay with mining in Ndauling. Tell me about Harmony and the decline in output that they've reported.
So South Africa's largest gold miner, Harmony Gold, reporting a 10% decline in gold production to 314,142 ounces in its third quarter of its financial year. Now, this was due to heavy rainfall and safety-related stoppages. Despite the production dip, the company's financial position strengthened, with its cash reserves surging 49% to a record 10.8 billion rands. Now, this increase was driven by a 30% quarterly rise in the rand gold price. This just highlighting the positive impact of a higher gold price on Harmony's financial performance. For the 9 months period, gold production decreased by 6% to 1.1 million ounces. Now, despite this, Harmony remains confident in its full-year outlook, maintaining its production guidance of between 1.4 million and 1.5 million ounces of gold. The company also kept its full-year cost guidance unchanged, which analysts say reflects stability in its operational expectations despite the short-term production challenges we just spoke about.
Did I hear correctly? Did you mention heavy rainfall as one of the factors that they are citing?
One of the reasons.
Wow.
Yes.
Sure. You would have thought that, by now, the way that mining is done, it should be possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
how technologically savvy it's become.
You know what I mean?
Unfortunately.
Happening as it does so deep underground in this country. How are the markets looking at this hour, Ndauling?
So kicking things off in Asia, now stock markets are trading mostly higher amid what seems to be easing global trade concerns. That's as U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said 17 trading partners, excluding China, have presented very good trade proposals, and some deals may be announced as early as this week. With that, we saw the Japanese Nikkei leading the gains on that front, up over 1%. Over in Wall Street, futures pretty flat. Traders on that front are awaiting the Fed's next move. Consensus is for a hold, but many are looking out for Jerome Powell's commentary around President Donald Trump and tariffs. Meanwhile, back at home, stocks were in the red, with the all-share shedding close to 0.33%. Then over on the currency front, there's been some gains with the dollar on the back foot. The rand is sitting at 18.26 to the greenback this hour.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela with your second update of the morning. She'll be back just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief, in which update she will give you a sense of what kind of a trading day you can expect in the markets on this Tuesday.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the Warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles, Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa, and in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
With all the recent headlines, it's time for some good news. A 25-year-old man, Tyler, is smiling all the way to the bank. He switched to Outsurance and now saves a whopping 718 Rand a month on the insurance for his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Outsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. Make today the day you switch and save with Outsurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I won't even lie. I've been itching to hear from you about some of the stories and some of the ground that we have covered this morning. So let's get on with it. Let me just play 1 or 2 voice notes and then we'll pick up on the calls as well. Let me start with this one. This has to do with South African youth and mobile websites and their use thereof. Take a listen.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Can you do an investigation of the SA Mobi website? Can you find testimony of people who have successfully found employment opportunities through that thing. We want to know if it really works. Why does it not work for some of us? Who does it work for exactly?
All right. That's an interesting one. I'm not familiar with the workings of SA Mobi, and I'm not sure about their undertakings, whether they undertake and put out that they are able to help people secure employment. It is worth exploring with the team, and the team has noted it. Thank you for bringing it to light. This person wants to comment on the missing journalist Aseri Ndlovu and his partner and the progress that has come through from the police.
Thulas, good morning to you. Good morning to your special team in studio. Great show always. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver from Mozambique to Johannesburg. Hey, Thulas, this missing of these journalistic couples. Can the mechanic tell us how did he get the parts of the cars? Can he tell us what actually happened? Lastly, Thulas, are we going to see corruption ending in this country?
Yeah, that's an important question, isn't it? I mean, despite all the efforts we've put into it over the last few years to try and turn the tide, to turn this truck, to use an analogy familiar to you, Uncle JJ, to try and turn this truck away from the direction that it's been heading all along. We've put in so much effort, but you wonder when you hear about these scandals, such as what you're seeing in Mpumalanga with this issue and how this whole issue of these laptops was handled. Speaking of which, then, let me go to Godfrey in Gqeberha. Good morning to you, Godfrey. You want to weigh in on exactly that, the laptops in Mpumalanga?
Yes, good morning, Thulas. Yes, and I just want to weigh in. I think the investigation by the Office of the Prim, I think it was completed swiftly. Maybe they need to be uploaded in that. I just wonder if there aren't any policy or relaxations or law relaxations country on issues of fraud and corruption. Like, for example, the investigation findings indicate that there were flaws in the procurement processes, but we hear that they are still going to apply the policies of disciplinary policies. I mean, it should be straight dismissal for those officials who didn't do the proper work in this, were involved in this. And even for the service provider, I mean, the service provider don't even know the service provider, but the guy has defrauded the country so much, the province so much money of taxpayers. So I think maybe there is something that needs to shift when it comes to those areas.
So you'd like to see a situation where once an investigation has been done, even if it's by the department itself or the Premier's office, we've seen enough, we terminate the employment immediately and name and shame the service provider.
Yes, I mean, now we're going to hear about this thing, progress, I think, towards the end of the year.
All right. Thank you for that, Godfrey. I've got to move on. That's Godfrey there in Gqeberha. Let me take a call from Jacob in Mbombela, also on the same issue. You're talking about officials and giving tenders to themselves this morning. What's that about, Jacob?
Yes, sir, Jacob. How's it?
Good. How's it?
Yeah, can you do an investigation also to our provincial secretary, because he's also doing the same thing.
All right, let's do this, Jacob. Let's tread carefully. Say to me your allegations without unnecessarily naming this person who's not here to defend themselves. But nothing stops you from making the allegations. What are you alleging exactly? So treading carefully along those lines that I've just outlined.
All right.
I'm listening.
Yeah, he's getting the credit for himself. He's getting the tender for himself.
Is this an official in the government or in a political party?
The ANC in Mpumalanga.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So it's an allegation against a specific official of the ANC in Mpumalanga.
Yes, Mr. Chirwa.
Do you have any proof of the allegations that you are making against Mr. Chirwa?
Yes.
You hold this proof. Share a bit more with us then, so that we also know what the allegation is, so that when we approach him to respond, we know what we want him to respond to. Jacob? All right, we've lost Jacob there on the line. So clearly an allegation being made by him against the provincial secretary of the ANC in Mpumalanga, but we couldn't get any further detail there of what exactly is alleged. Churchill in Mthatha, good morning to you. You want to talk about organized crime?
Good morning, Thulas.
Yes.
I'm listening to this case of the laptops, and I strongly feel that policing must be taken very seriously as a career this time around, because criminals, especially when it comes to organized crime, corruption, fraud, they hire very competent lawyers. I've seen our investigators when they are thrown into the witness box how they become embarrassed. So we need to do something in order to up the game as far as our police are concerned. Because, from grade 12, they're just thrown deep there,
Yeah.
and then they become embarrassed by this. There's a recent one of Ace Nobo, So a lot of people are taking chances because they can see that they get away with it. So policing needs to be taken very seriously as a career.
So putting together a watertight case and being able to follow the required procedural steps so that you're not found wanting at the court level.
Absolutely. Many of them get off the hook. They get away with it,
Yeah. All right, gotcha. Churchill, thank you for that input this morning. That's Churchill in Mthatha. Glenn in Bedfordview, good morning to you. You want to talk about the Minister of Electricity who's got electrifying dance moves, yeah?
Morning, Thulas, my brother.
Good morning.
Yes, no, Thulas. For a change, I would like to commend the minister.
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite people in government. The guy knows what he's talking about. Even when you're listening to him, you understand.
Yeah,
you understand what he's talking about. He has educated the entire country. Because he's an engineer himself. So when he's explaining, I no longer get angry when I see his face on TV. Because I know, as much as maybe there'll be load shedding, but when he talks, the man understands exactly what he's talking about. And that's the kind of leadership we need in government, Thulas.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say, that Ramaphosa really made a good appointment here.
Yeah. No, he's taken to that job with a great deal of electrifying energy, has Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. Thank you for that. That's Glenn there in Bedfordview. Let me come back to an issue that someone raised just a few minutes ago about the SA Youth Mobi website and the question whether it works the way that it purports to work in terms of helping people find employment. Someone is responding to that question.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. This is Mpo from Soweto. Yeah, it does work. I can send you a proof that shows I was hired. I was working as a sport assistant coach. So it does work. You do get some job from this SA Mobi. So if you want proof, I can send it to you so that you can have the clarity. It does work. Because the way he's talking because of the teacher assistant. So he's just rushing. So you just need to relax, but it does work. Thank you very much. Nice show.
Right. Thanks, Mpo. Thank you for that. It's good to hear that some initiatives that are being taken to try and deal with this crisis that we face in this country do yield results. I can only imagine it can't be easy also just trying to connect people with job opportunities. It must take quite a bit of doing given just the state of the economy and the scarcity of jobs and the demand, the sheer demand where you have, sometimes you have a post where you get you have 4,000 posts and then you hear that there were over 1 million applicants. So, it just gives you those dynamics. And I suppose that's where the impatience does come in and creep in. Thank you for that, though.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
So you've heard our insurance clients talking about all the money they saved when they switched. You've thought about getting a quote, but you're not sure if they could save you money on your car insurance or if it's worth the effort. Well, make today the day you get an OutSurance quote. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. If OutSurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you're a winner, like Tulani.
fast, helpful, efficient. Everything was so smooth. I saved 530 bucks.
Make today the day you switch and save. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Now tell me, Steve, how has your being the deputy minister affected your activism and just the experience? Because we're used to you on the other side.
My activism in the civil society continues in what President Ramaphosa has called for. We need an activist government. And that's what, for me, I believe in those principles. I believe in the work of government that must serve its people administratively and on time. And that's what I bring to the table.
Steve Litsike is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, youth and people with disabilities.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on The Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
8 minutes to 8. Let's turn to this story now, coming out of the Constitutional Court, which has delivered a unanimous and historic ruling that has declared that the blanket ban preventing prisoners from using personal computers in their cells for educational purposes is unconstitutional. The court directed that the National Commissioner of Correctional Services must revise the policy within a year, affirming the fundamental right of inmates to further education under the country's constitution. So let's speak to Miles Budu. You know him. He's a long-time activist on issues of rights of people in prisons in this country. Miles, good morning and thank you for your time. So it was a unanimous decision. It basically said that the blanket ban imposed in terms of a policy dating back to about 2007 is not compatible with the right to higher education as enshrined in Section 29(1)(b) of the Constitution. A good move as far as you are concerned?
Well, thank you, Thulasizwe. Thank you very much for having me, my brother. Look, this is a long time coming judgment. It comes as far afield as challenging this unconstitutional policy which was signed, which was sealed and stamped by an acting commissioner 18 years ago. Now, the issue is the right for further education entrenched in Section 29, subsection 1, paragraph E of the Constitution. And that blanket ban emanates from a policy which was up to today regarded as it's unconstitutional. Any Department of Correctional Services has not learned that inmates has for years went to the High Court, won their cases, any department appeal these cases using taxpayers' monies. But this time, I hope they have learned their lesson, because the High Court in Johannesburg declared that policy unconstitutional as it was infringing the right to further education in the particular section as just mentioned, that it further constituted an unfair discrimination between inmates and the general public, and also between inmates and the Johannesburg Medium C and other inmates, in violation of the promotion of Equality and the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act. It's called the PEPUDA Act.
Yes. Yeah, PEPUDA. Miles, much of the reaction that I've been hearing talks about this decision perhaps challenging our understandings of what the punishment of crime is all about, right? That whole theory about deterrence, prevention, and a measure of retribution, in that people feel, a lot of the people, let me put it that way, a lot of the people say this diminishes that punishment element that, prisoners now have. The amenities keep getting added on, including now that ability to use laptops inside their cells. What do you say to that?
Well, that kind of mentality of thinking is backward, it's outdated. We are living in a era where technology has become the order of the day, and the department has got a mandate, and that is to educate, to train, to give skills so that one makes sense of the buzzword called rehabilitation, so that you reintegrate a rehabilitated project as a law-abiding, useful, and productive citizen. Those who are screaming and yelling outside here, what they need to do, they must join the global digital technology so that we all get out of this bad inferior Bantu education that was forced down our throats and stop suffering from inferiority complex. The department has got a mandate, and they must fulfill their mandate in order to make sure that recidivism, prison in, prison out, repeating offenders, revolving door syndrome must be dealt with through technology. I'm talking here about prisoners who want to better their life, coming out law-abiding citizens. Those who want to use the computers and laptops and cell phones to further their criminal activities and mentality. The department should have by now, 31 years ago, had a strategy how to arrest that, how to pigeonhole that, and how to deal with those who still want to commit crimes whilst they are behind bars.
Yeah, and the judgment makes it clear, Miles, that it only concerns itself with the use of computers in cells by those, inmates who are registered and are pursuing education, but also not connected by way of a modem or, internet connectivity, etc. And says very specifically that they don't address the issue of the use of these technologies for any other purposes. Now, the people that I'm talking about that argue that you are chipping away at the punishment element of sentencing of offenders might argue that it's only a matter of time before challenges are brought for prisoners to now be able to access laptops and other technologies for such things as entertainment, etc. Would that fall in line with your understandings of rehabilitation, that further challenge that says, why not allow for more humane detention that includes those capabilities that people can use laptops for purposes other than just study?
My brother, listen here. Scholars and intellectuals and academics has told us many years ago that prison should have never been in the business of punishment, because being in prison is punishment enough, number one. Number two, when you commit a crime, you must know in this country, you will be arrested. Whether you get away the first, the second time, or the third time, you will be arrested, you will be charged, you will be brought in front of a court of law, you will go to prison to go and serve your dues to the communities, and at least come out This is what we must know. Fellow South Africans, unfortunately, not out of our own making, we are slow, we are negligent, we are insensitive, and most of the time we are incompetent. Not out of our own making. It's a system that was perpetuated by people who are still thriving on a system which was declared a crime against humanity. Leave the Department of Correctional Services and get those officials out of the system who are stubborn, who are dunderheads, and are very jealous of people who are behind bars and want to further their studies, because they themselves need to be further retrained as correctional officers, and they must pay now the cost out of their pocket of this huge constitutional court, which is a victory for those inmates who want to become better citizens.
Miles, thank you for that. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. It's been challenging. I mean, it's part of the challenge. I imagine that the debate will continue, just juxtaposing what our Constitution provides for versus our own notions, right? Our own notions of what justice is and what justice should look like. That's Miles Budu there. He's a long-time standing activist on issues of detainees and inmates in this country. Brings us to 8 a.m. Let's check in with the news desk now.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Top story is Sawa, 4 people killed in a collision in Plettenberg Bay, and today marks the first anniversary of the George building collapse. Good morning, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe. 4 people have been killed in a collision between 2 vehicles on the N2 in Plettenberg Bay in the Western Cape. The crash happened this morning, the Provincial Mobility Department spokesperson Munira Ali.
We confirm an incident on the N2 at Kwanakutula intersection at Plettenberg Bay at 2 a.m. on 6th of May, where a bus and vehicle were involved in a collision. 4 fatalities are confirmed. All teams are currently on site. A stop-and-go is in place until the scene is cleared.
Today marks the first anniversary of the collapse of a building in George in the Western Cape. 34 people were killed and 20 others injured. A service will be held at the George Civic Centre where survivors and bereaved families will speak. 2 reports have been released. One will not be made public as this could jeopardize police investigations. The other has pointed fingers at the contractor and several officials from the National Home Builders Registration Council. Radzi Biodzva is a family member of Zimbabwean national Phineas Ndlovu, a deceased bricklayer.
What broke me even worse is what came after. Nothing. No answers, no support, no one took responsibility. We were left to pick up the shattered pieces by ourselves, and no one even acknowledged his life or death. I don't wish anyone to go through this.
The South African Municipal Workers Union SAMU has called on the city of Ekurhuleni to discontinue disciplinary action against nearly 400 Metro police officers over an unprotected strike. A dispute over salary adjustments and overtime compensation sparked the strike, which took place in March. The city says it has issued pre-dismissal notices to 389 officers for misconduct. SAMU Ekurhuleni chairperson is Chris Mavunda.
At this stage, there is no need for the action that the municipality has taken, because it is our understanding that we have established the process with the city on how to resolve these issues through the LLF processes. So we are still hoping that it is only those LLF processes that will bear positive results for everyone, and we don't think that taking punitive action at this stage will assist anyone. We have, through our secretary, returned to the city requesting meetings with them so that we can find each other on this issue.
Premier Soccer League General Manager Ace Ngcobo and his wife Salome Ngcobo will be back in the Bellville Magistrates Court in Cape Town on the 29th of this month. They appeared in court yesterday where they were granted bail of 50,000 Rand and 30,000 Rand respectively. They're accused of facing 3 counts of fraud and money laundering. They allegedly received about 15 million Rand from Petro SA to build a school and to renovate a creche in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged that they falsified documents and forged signatures. The National Prosecuting Authority in the Western Cape says it will appeal the court's decision to grant the accused bail. NPA provincial spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila.
We are not happy with the decision of the magistrate because when he made his ruling, he said the state does not have anything to say, of which is not what we said. We would have expected the magistrate to reject that application we made and then call the IO to take the stand and then allow us an opportunity to oppose the bail using the magistrate, the IO. But that did not happen.
Germany's parliament is today expected to elect the conservative CDU party leader, Friedrich Merz, as its new chancellor. Merz is promising to revitalize the country's flagging economy and boost its voice on the world stage. It ends Germany's recent political limbo after the last government collapsed. The BBC's Jessica Parker has the details.
69-year-old Friedrich Merz has long held ambitions to be Germany's chancellor. Today, he gets his chance. There'll be a vote in Parliament and, if all goes according to plan, the taking of an oath. Mr Merz has said there's a historic duty to lead this coalition of the centre-right and centre-left to success. But snapping at his heels is Alternativa for Deutschland, the party that came second in February's snap election.
Recapping the top story this hour, 4 people have been killed in a collision between 2 vehicles on the N2 in Plettenberg Bay in the Western Cape. The crash happened this morning. For SAFM News, I'm Cholani Tulongwepe.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Looking for some feel-good news? Jermaine, a 43-year-old man, feels like a winner because he now saves 360 Rand a month on his car insurance premium. That's right, Jermaine switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 360 Rand a month on his 2021 Mazda 3 1.5 Dynamic. Outsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. Make today the day you switch and save with Outsurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a heavy backlog on the N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, making your way to Pretoria this morning between the R55 Pretoria West exit and the N1 Brakfontein interchange, jam-packed through there. Delays can be expected coming in on the 511 William Mandela down towards Uranium Road as you come through from Diepsloot, Dainfern in towards the Fourways area. Crash on the N12 this morning, eastbound at Edenvale. Just watch for some slowing traffic perhaps approaching that one. And the Mike 1 up through Joburg, pretty heavy. Boyson's through to about sort of Melrose area. Before you're out of that one. Durban, a heads up, the N3 inbound, solid again this morning from the M13 Paradise Valley all the way through Pavilion on your way to Spaghetti Junction. Change up in the roadworks. We are probably again today looking at an all-day queue on the N3 into Durban. Just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. Expect some spillover delays on the M13 Westfield to Sherwood. That is very heavy as well. The M7 going into Pinetown has been relentlessly backed up from North Dean, North Park, all the way up towards St John's Avenue. And Cape Town, another crash, or it might be the same one being recovered into outbound before Jan Smuts Drive. Heading out towards the airport. There's some real queuing pressure into that one. The N7 Goodwood to Bosmansdam Road still slow and pretty heavy this morning from Sunningdale on your way through Sunset Beach heading to Milnerton. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, soccer, Orlando Pirates will be without 2 key players when they face Golden Arrows in their crucial midweek premiership clash in Durban. And there's rugby news with Damian Willemse set for his 100th Stormers match alongside Libo Galant and Feinberg Ngomezulu. All the details just before 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. We're into the third hour of the Morning Brief on this Tuesday. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It is great to be in your company this morning. Just recapping on some of the conversations we've started. As I was saying to Miles Budu that I enjoyed the conversation we had towards the end of the last hour. In a way, it really challenges us. This is one of those areas of our country and the Constitution that really challenges all of us, right? Fed up with crime and feeling that the state is losing the fight against crime, many people hold the view that punishment for crimes should be severe. And I think few would disagree with that if you commit a heinous crime, for example, you should face a severe punishment. But weaved in within our values and our constitution is this whole element of rehabilitation of offenders. And also that Ubuntu, that, we don't take you and crush you and completely destroy you. And we are proportionate in the way that we do things. And therefore, the human rights that you enjoy while you are on the outside, yes, they may be limited when you are inside prison, but they're not lost. So this judgment now that talks about, prisoners being able to use their laptops inside their cells talks to all of that. the theories of punishment, prevention, deterrence, as well as a measure of retribution. That's the purpose of punishment of crime. It all challenges all of us, in terms of what we believe and what we hold to be true in our constitution. I'd love to hear your reflections on that judgment. But also, we were talking a bit earlier on about those laptops out of Mpumalanga, and many of you talking about the investigation that has now been done by the government of Mpumalanga and the update that they have given on that particular investigation. All of that and any other matters that may be exercising your mind, do give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. The third hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
There's a song that goes, "Money can't buy me love." And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to beat defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper. It's an absolute beauty. It's an absolute beauty from Musa.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Absolutely magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heat near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
13 minutes after 8. Recent flooding along the Vaal River has caused severe damage to communities, agriculture and tourism in downstream areas like Bloemhof in the northwest. Residents and businesses say the economic impact will likely take years to overcome, with hundreds displaced and livelihoods destroyed. Let's speak to Sebang Motlabi, who is the mayor of Lekwatiemane at the local municipality there. I'm told that we don't necessarily have the mayor on the line. We will try and come back to that conversation. It is a conversation that we would like to take forward, given what you've been seeing, those visuals of the heavy rains leading to the dams filling up and the need to open some of the sluice gates. And you've seen some of the visuals in recent weeks and the damage that it has wrought, as I say, to livelihoods, including agriculture and tourism in some of these areas. So let's see if we can get the mayor on the line and take that conversation forward.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me take a call from Lala in Polokwane. Good morning to you, Lala. You want to reflect on this conversation about schools not offering mathematics?
Yes. Good morning, Dr. Thulasizwe. How are you?
You know, Lala, that's dangerous. Now, let me tell you, the number of people who say it all started as a joke, and then I didn't correct people, and then 5 years down the line, you will be the first one to say, "Hey, Dr. Simelane, where's your doctorate?" Please go ahead.
Okay, look, Thulasizwe. We are now complaining about high unemployment rate, more especially on the young people from the age of 15 to 24, which is sitting just about 60%. But it's like we are not doing enough to correct this problem. The DG of Basic Education some 2 years ago, when they were releasing the matric results, he said this country has already started importing the accountants. So that means if we are importing the accountants, that we do not have enough people who are doing accountancy because they are not doing pure math. You cannot do accounting at matric level if you are not doing math. Now, we also have the Vision 2030 goals. One of them is to empower the community with technology. Now, we are having technology. We are basically creating a lot of opportunities on the technology side, but we are not putting many people to study mathematics. Why? The problem is here. In 2015-2016, there was a test that was written by the grade 5 teachers and the learners. The results reflected that 2 out of the 3 teachers who wrote that test failed. So what do you expect with the students? Yeah. Now the problem started at the foundation level. Let me give you just a simple analogy quickly. Sure. Do you remember the issue that happened with the in Nigeria where 93 South Africans perished some years ago?
Yes.
They said the building of the guest house was when it was they were doing the foundation, it was only for 2-story building.
Yeah.
Then after some time they decided to add 2 more stories on top. Yeah. But without changing the foundation, that's why the building collapsed. The same thing with us. Thank you very much.
It all feeds into it. Thank you for that, Lala. It feeds into the careers that young people are able to pursue and therefore the professions that we are able to produce for our economy. That's Lala in Polokwane there. Let me take a call from Lungelo in KwaZulu-Natal. Good morning to you, Lungelo. You want to talk to me about prisoners' rights?
Yes, good morning and good morning to the listeners. So I see the prisoners' rights, but have you ever asked yourself about the rights of victims? For example, when somebody is involved in an accident, road accident fund comes in, obviously a person gets some form of compensation because there's a loss. Now, if I am alive and my dad is killed, obviously there's a loss of income, but there's zero compensation. When I need to attend court for the case, I take care of myself. The prisoner is transported by government, but I need to find money to be able to go to court and so on.
Yeah.
So in as much as I get the focus on prisoners' rights, maybe there needs to be a broader conversation around what about the victim? Who takes care of the victim? Who makes sure that the victim gets to court? Who makes sure that when there's a substantial loss of income, what happens to that victim? How are the victims compensated more than I get the issue of prisoners and their rights, but there's such a focus on them and there's such a big conversation on that we're not having a conversation around the victims. And if you look at the model of the road accident fund, what happens to the loss of income?
It is there, though. It's covered in terms of you can claim for it. Loss of income and support. It's one of those that are contemplated. But I get the point that you're making. It's about the balance that while you are focusing on the rights of the prisoners, think about the rights of the victims.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that, Lungelo. Lungelo in KwaZulu-Natal there. Let me move on to Sia, also in KwaZulu-Natal, on the same issue about prisoners. Good morning to you.
To listeners and your listeners. Thank you. I'd just like to comment on this issue. Now, when we were still going to school, we were being taught about rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
You have a right as a citizen in this country that is a constitutionally protected right. And you have a responsibility to protect that right so that you can continue enjoy your free rights as a citizen that is law-abiding. Now, if you choose to violate those rights, you need to face some sort of recourse. And you cannot continue to enjoy those rights and privileges while you are still on that recourse of, sorting yourself right. So I don't think it actually makes sense that we have so many people and organizations advocating for prisoners to be treated with kids' gloves and, getting the 5-star treatment while they have done a lot of damage.
Hey, have you heard the argument that says going to prison on its own is punishment? People don't go to prison to be punished. Just going to prison on its own, that confinement and the taking away of your right to freedom of movement, that on its own is punishment, and therefore don't make it worse inside prison.
As much as I agree with you on that, again,
it's not my argument. I'm throwing it. I'm throwing it at you.
We've had quite a number of stories coming out of prison about how prison is actually becoming something different. You've had people creating online dating profiles and tricking people on the outside and blackmailing them. There was a case back in the years where even officers were being targeted by criminals within the system. With fake dating profiles and blackmailing them for money and stuff like that.
See, I've got to leave it there. Let me leave it there because I do need to run. I've got one more caller to take before I go. Thank you for that. That's Sia in KZN there. Temba in Protea Glen. Short and sharp for me if you don't mind, please. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. I'm concerned about the rampant that is regarding the kidnapping. The question of journalists who disappeared since February. It's a scary one and it's concerning. You understand?
Yeah.
But when they discovered the pieces of the VW, what is it? VW Polo.
I'm not sure what vehicle it is. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a VW. It's all about that car. I think the VW Polo Golf 7.
Yeah.
Those are the target of criminals, and I say you need to be careful when you're driving that car, and
all
then.
Right. Temba, I do need to move on. I'm sorry about that. I'll take your call a bit later on, let's say in the coming days. That's Temba there, but I do need to move on. Thank you for that. We'll make more time and continue to have these conversations.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So a new front has opened in the series of political and policy battles raging between the main parties in the national governing coalition known as the Government of National Unity. This time around, the Democratic Alliance is heading to the Gauteng division of the High Court in Pretoria this morning to challenge the constitutionality of the Employment Equity Amendment Act on the grounds that it will worsen unemployment and economic decline. The party argues that the act vests what it's described as totalitarian powers in the Minister of Labour to set national workplace transformation targets, which, according to the DA, amount to race-based quotas. Let's speak to Thembinkosi Mkhaliphi, who is the Deputy Director General for Labour Policy and Industrial Relations at the Department of Employment and Labour. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So this is the assessment from the DA. In fact, Helen Zille saying there are a lot of policies like these where the intention may have been good, but the actual effect on the economy and the lived experience of people will be very different. What is the rationale and justification for the Amendment Act as well as the regulations that accompany that Amendment Act?
Well, the rationale is simple, Thulasizwe, is that we've had this law and it was challenged in the Constitutional Court before and it succeeded. And employers have not been coming to the party for transformation. Transformation has not moved at the speed that the country would want it to move, and that's why we're making these changes. And we believe, that the law meets the constitutional test, the issues raised by the DA are false, and that we will meet in court.
So you're very confident about it. For instance, this whole concern about Section 15 capital A of the Amendment Act, which gives the minister the power to make the regulations, and we saw those regulations coming through in the last few weeks. You are quite confident that all of those will pass constitutional muster and not be found to be discriminating, for example, as the argument went a few weeks ago, against white men, in that it will place them at the bottom of the pecking order.
Well, white men will be put on at the back end of the pecking order, because when you look on the statistics, they make up in the top 4 levels of all of the economy. They make out around about 60% as it is now, when their economically active population representation is in around about 9%. Therefore, that's the reason that they will be at the back of the pack. It's not because the regulation, the act as it is now does that. And this issue that this is draconian, gives the minister unfettered power, is false. Because in terms of the law says that the minister must set up this target after consulting the different sectors of the economy. And even if the minister set up the target, the employers who, in meeting this target, if they got justifiable reason for not being able to meet the target, they can cite those justifiable reasons. In fact, the law goes further and say these are the reasons that you can cite. They are in the law, they are in the regulation. Therefore, we don't see anything wrong with the law, and we're confident of our case.
But who decides whether those justifiable reasons are actually justifiable? So if an employer says, I can't meet the target you've set for our sector, minister, who then makes that decision? And isn't that where the problem lies?
Ultimately, that decision is made by the court. It's going to be the inspectors. When the employer says that I can't meet this target, remember, the target that the employer will say they can't meet is not a target set by the minister. This is how the system works at Thulasizwe, that the minister set a 5-year target, okay? And the company then is required to set their own annual target. And the company will be then assessed on the basis of their own annual target. If the company says, in the next year, in the next 5 years, every year, I'm going to move by 20% in terms of transformation. And that's where the assessment is going to take place. It's the company that says so. Says, I'm going to take this bite by bit, 20%. If they don't make that 20%, then they must justify why. And if inspectors are not happy with the justification, then they go to court. Therefore, it's not the justification of the target set by the minister. It's the justification of a target set by the employer to meet the minister's target.
So the other big cry that I've heard, Mr. Mkhaliphi, has to do with the punitive measures that can be taken against companies that don't meet these targets as set. There's talk about, imposition of fines up to 10% of turnover. And that's where the argument of the DA says this stops being a target and becomes a race-based quota, in that you have to meet it or else. Drastic and draconian punitive measures, including what I've just cited, as well as the inability to do business with government.
First, the surprise is that the DA is not challenging the fines. The fines are not part of the challenge that I'm making, because the fines are not a new provision. They are already in the law. They've never been challenged. Therefore, to throw them in on this as if that they are part of their challenge, it's not. The only issue that they are challenging in court is the power of the minister to set up the target. And we don't think, if any company believes that the fines are high, the fine that has been issued, remember the fines, the inspector must still go to court. It's not the inspector that says, here's the fine. The inspector goes to court and says, this company does not comply with employment equity. It has failed in terms of meeting its target. Your Honor, can you please fine this company this percentage? And the company has got an opportunity to convince court. It's going to be the court that says, yes, you agree with the 20%.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. It will be interesting to see how the case unfolds as it plays itself out in the court. That's Thembinkosi Mkhaliphi. He's DDG for Labour Policy and Industrial Relations at the Department of Employment and Labour.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick things off with soccer. Orlando Pirates have been dealt with a double blow ahead of their midweek Premiership clash against Golden Arrows at Moses Mabhida Stadium tonight. Midfield maestro Talent Mbata suspended after picking up his fourth yellow card during Saturday's Soweto derby win over Kaizer Chiefs. He's joined on the sidelines by defender Nkosinathi Sibisi, who's completing a 2-match ban. Let's go to Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nazruddin Nabi speaking ahead of facing his fierce rivals Orlando Pirates again, and this time Nedbank Cup final on Saturday. Now, of course, this is seen as a successive Soweto derby, with this weekend seeing the Buccaneers winning 2-1 at FNB Stadium. Nabi says he sees it as an opportunity.
Plutôt qu'un dérangement, si vous voulez dire. You have to take it as an opportunity to play an opponent like 2 times in a row. Because you get into that game with the experience of what has worked and what has not, and as well you have the idea and the sense of what could be the reaction of the opponent in different situations.
Elsewhere, Trent Alexander-Arnold has a verbal agreement to join Real Madrid after announcing he's leaving Liverpool at the end of the season.
After 20 years at Liverpool Football Club, I'll be leaving at the end of the season. I think the decision for me is personal. I will always remain a Liverpool fan.
And rugby news, it's a century for Damian Willemse. The double World Cup winner will earn his 100th cap for the Stormers this Saturday when they face the Dragons in Cape Town. Still only 27 years old, Willemse made his debut at just 18 years and now joins a select group of legends in Stormers history. He's likely to share the backline with Mani Libok, Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu and Warwick Galant, all finally fit at the same time. And that's your wrap on the Morning Brief Sport. There'll be more sport with John Gericke around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe making headlines. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Kenny Morolong, has commended police for the arrest of 4 people in connection with the disappearance of journalist Serero Ndlovu and his partner Zoto Mdluli. The 2 went missing in February this year. 4 people have been killed in a collision between 2 vehicles on the N2 in Plettenberg Bay in the Western Cape. The crash happened this morning, and the South African Municipal Workers Union SAMU has called on the city of Ekurhuleni to discontinue disciplinary action against nearly 400 Metro police officers over an unprotected strike. A dispute over salary adjustments and overtime compensation sparked the strike, which took place in March. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg. First up, roadworks back on the R21 North, heading away from the airport towards Pretoria. Some lane closures by Pomona Road, and there is some queuing pressure there. Also, roadworks on the Mike 1 South. These look semi-permanent around Carr Street in Braamfontein. So, coming from Parktown, that is heavy. If they're there again this afternoon, you'll get a backlog right through to Sandton. So, just keep a check on that one. Check before you travel, I guess. Collision leaving Soweto on the N1 North near the N17, Soweto Highway. That's quite slow. The N14 to Pretoria is still badly backed up, heading north on the Krugersdorp Highway in towards that Brockfontein interchange. I think we're looking again at an all-day queue on the N3 going into Durban. The rumble strips on the N3 to slow things down between Pavilion and Spaghetti Junction. Traffic is heavy from Paradise Valley, M13. In fact, probably from about Stapleton Road on the M13, you'll pick up the queue. You won't get out of it until you get through the Spaghetti Junction along that N3, and it's going to stay like that all day today. Probably only ease around 7 p.m. tonight. M7 into Pinetown from the Hunt-Stepman side remains heavy. N2 south from Gena Road to Spaghetti Junction under a bit of pressure as well. And Cape Town this hour, the N7 still very slow. Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road. Marine Drive is heavy. Tableview through Sunset Beach. And there's also a collision on the N2 outbound after Rappenberg Road, slowing traffic towards the airport. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation. The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's start with energy matters in this update in Dowling. What's the word from Megawatt Park? Will our lights stay on this winter?
It seems like it, and it seems many of us can breathe a sigh of relief to less, as Eskom's winter outlook for the year predicts a load-shedding free season, provided unplanned outages remain below 13,000 gigawatts. According to Eskom CEO Dan Marokane, the utility's improved performance and additional capacity coming online support this forecast. If unplanned outages increase to 15,000 gigawatts, Eskom expects to limit load shedding to a maximum of 21 days at stage 2, an improvement from the previous year's worst case prediction of stage 5 load shedding. Now, several factors contribute to Eskom's optimism, including a decrease in unplanned outages compared to the previous year. Key milestones are expected to boost capacity, such as the return of Medupi Unit 4, which will add 800 megawatts of power by the end of May after almost 4 years offline. Additionally, Kusile Unit 6, contributing 800 megawatts, is scheduled for commercial operation by September, and Koeberg Unit 1 is set to return by August, adding 980 megawatts. So an additional 2,500 megawatts of new capacity will be added to the grid. What I'm finding funny, though, Thulas, is that here I am talking about a load shedding free winter season and my light went out about 10 minutes ago. But I thought I'll put it to unplanned outages, you know?
Unplanned outages. Let's correct ourselves as well in Dowling, because I heard you mention 13,000 gigawatts. And it's not your fault. I'm not defending you, but it's not your fault. It's Eskom's fault, right? Because all along, the language has been megawatts. They've taught
Instead of gigawatts.
They've taught us to talk in megawatts, and then all of a sudden yesterday, someone wakes up that they're going to tell us about 13 gigawatts and 15. You know what I mean?
So it's 13,000 megawatts and 13
exactly.
gigawatts.
Their headquarters is not called Gigawatt Park. It's called Megawatt Park. And that's what they've taught us. They must stick to the language that they've taught us. Tell me about government and what they're saying about the Transformation Fund. It's a subject of much debate in the country.
That's right, Thulas. And it seems like they're making progress with the fund, which President Ramaphosa spoke about at SONA earlier this year. Now, plans are in place to launch a 100 billion rand transformation fund by the end of the year, aimed at, of course, driving economic transformation and promoting inclusive growth. Now, Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stow said the fund will support Black-owned businesses through debt financing, grants, and equity instruments targeting key sectors such as renewable energy, mining services, agro-processing, and manufacturing. Now, an independent board will oversee the fund, ensuring transparent governance. Organized Business, however, has expressed skepticism, with Business Leadership SA arguing that the fund may replicate existing initiatives and won't address underlying transformation challenges. BLSA CEO Busima Vuso emphasized that organizational cultures resistant to transformation requires more than just funding. Now, despite these concerns, Deputy President Paul Mashatile highlighted the fund's importance, stating it will play a central role in the presidency's work, particularly in meeting procurement targets and implementing the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act. The government aims to invest about 20 billion rands annually over 5 years through the fund, providing technical support and programs to help businesses grow as well as access markets.
Yeah. So lastly, Dowling, set us up with how the day is going to be looking on this Tuesday in the markets.
Locally, markets are likely to start mixed today. We are seeing, mixed sentiment throughout the globe, where Asia is in the green, but over in the US, we are seeing markets in the red. So that is probably going to filter through to our markets this morning. In terms of company news, there's a production update from Goldfields and first quarter numbers out from MTN Rwanda. So traders will be waking up to that. Meanwhile, on the currency front, a faltering dollar has been boosting the rand. It is sitting at 18.29 to the dollar this hour. Moving over to the US, all eyes are on Powell and his team of policymakers as they prepare to deliver a rates decision tomorrow ahead of that futures are flat slightly in the red. Then lastly, in Asia, markets on track to close the day in positive territory. Sentiment on that front being boosted by the possibility of trade deals between the US and some of its partners being reached as early as this week. This, of course, comes after the US's, or rather Trump's administration confirmed that, they are making progress with some of the trade deals.
All right. Thank you for that, Ntauling. What are the chances that you are drinking tea at this very moment? I thought I could hear the clanking of cups.
Yes, the chances are very high.
Look at your life. Ntauling Lechela there. She's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets over the last 3 hours.
Do you want an experience of a lifetime? Where every day is filled with challenges of providing Lisa Vanderpump curated experiences while dealing with rivalries, romances, and misadventures. It's drama at Vanderpump's French Estate. Chantel, Rosabelle, and the staff can't wait to give you a front row seat to all the drama. Catch Vanderpump Villa, Saturdays on S3 at 8:30 p.m. S3 open up. S3.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the Warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles, Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa, and in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
I tell you what, I want to hear as much from you as possible. So I'll pull back a bit and let me play some of the voice notes and take calls as quickly as I can.
Morning, Oliver. I think they should allow us who are outside to go in jail without committing any crime so that we can get the quality of education that the inmates are getting, because it's hard for someone who's outside to get quality education. I dropped out of 3 or 4 institutions.
Good morning, Thulas. Thabo Bester is been vindicated with this case. I wonder if it's only to be for educational purposes to him, or is it only that once he get it back into his cells, then he's gonna start doing his connection inside the prison. Lennon.
Hey, Thulas, you spoke to the DA minister about a week ago who wanted to move the IT supply chain processes away from SITA. This is the reason that people do not want to use the SITA. They want to do these underhanded deals and corruption and pretend not to have the specialists that know IT in government. We have SITA. That's where you should be procuring computers. This is the problem that happened in Mpumalanga. They wanted to do it themselves for corruption. Sure. Thank you. It's Bongi.
Thanks, Bongi. Thank you for that. All right, let me take the calls very quickly. Bonagele in Kailicha, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the former referee, Ace Ngob?
Absolutely. A very good morning to us. That's a day before I'm turning 60 tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday in advance, man.
Absolutely. You know the reason I keep on saying this, even on Kaizer and then I've been saying this, probably some of the people are sick and tired of Monaghan telling them, hey, he's going to turn 60. Indaba ukuthi bayandelela abangandaziyo bacinga ezintwana encane bade batsho yabo kanti this guy indala. So I'm saying this so that they must it must stick to their head that I'm being Grootman.
Yeah, Grootman, please go ahead with this issue of Ace Ngobo, please.
Thank you very much. Listen, man, I was just interested to hear the reaction. In fact, I was much interested on those branches. 4 branches were calling for Udeni Jordan to step down because of the corruption charges. Now it's Ace Nogo, the general manager of the PSL. So what will be the reaction of those people? Because for me personally, I always say there should be no exception. If someone is facing charges, he's been charged, he went to court, released on bail, that particular individual should step aside from his job.
Yeah.
So what will be the reaction of other people in Ngobo's case?
Yeah. No, it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. Thank you for that, Bonagele. And once again, happy birthday in advance to you. Katu in Centurion, good morning. You want to talk to me about the issue of prisoners and laptops?
Yes.
Yes,
Good
please
morning.
go ahead.
It's also my birthday on the 10th of May.
On the 10th of you'll call again. We'll wish you happy birthday closer to the time.
You know what? On Friday, I was at Atterbury Valley Mart, and I saw for the first time Oscar Pistorius. He's aged, he's not looking good, and I had conflicting emotions.
Sure.
I felt sorry for him, but I felt very angry that this guy is back on the street and River Steenkamp is never coming back. And it was that's how I just wanted to start this call. But for me on the issue of the laptops and stuff, remember, not everybody who goes into the prison system is a career criminal. A lot of people make bad choices. You and I can make a bad choice. You can knock somebody over and it's culpable homicide because you had a glass of wine. So I think we need as many people to be educated who come back into the general population so that they don't continue with crime, but they have options when they come back to society. So the issue of laptops, I think they should have a computer room where they've got desktops that can do the same things. Guys can study under supervision. They don't need to take the laptops to their cells. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Katu. Happy birthday to you in advance as well. That's Katu there weighing in on the issue of prisoners and access to laptops. And I suppose underscoring the whole approach of rehabilitation where possible, but at the same time, helping us to grapple with the issue in instances where someone has died, as in the case of Rieva Steenkamp and, killed by Oscar Pistorius, that person continues to be alive and is now out of prison, but Rieva Steenkamp is no more and cannot have that second chance in life. So interesting takes all together on those issues that are coming through.
Morning to us, except that there are advances in nuclear technology. Also, it's not just stagnant. When it used to take 10, 15 years to build today, look at China, and the costs are going down. It's not with solar and wind only. There are advances in nuclear technology as well.
All right, that's interesting because, it answers the question that was raised a bit earlier on in the conversation we had about modular reactors and the consideration that South Africa is giving to nuclear technology and the time that it would take to get it over the line. So interesting to hear that there are developments that would mean that, we can get it over the line sooner rather than later. But is that our lived experience, though, as a country, in terms of how we undertake processes like these? I wonder. Israel in the northwest, good morning. You want to talk to me about the flooding and the water around the areas around Bloemhof Dam?
Yes, hi, good morning to the great show indeed.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes. I'd like to talk first and foremost about two things really about the dam. The number one is that the state of the dam is the very cause of a great concern because part of the size of the dam, the walls, the concrete walls, have huge holes in them. And it's really a ticking time bomb to us for our town and our township. Yeah. Because really the state of the dam should really not be tolerated because very soon we would find ourselves being washed away, the town is being washed away by the water.
Sure.
Even how concrete walls have opened up, the cracks, there are huge deep cracks along the walls of the dam.
Wow.
But second to that, the waters have presented a very good economic opportunities for us in our area here. In that there's huge fishing opportunities, and the powers that the economic development and all the rest of the economic fraternity must really assist the community of our area here, because the poverty is almost at 60% in our municipality.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, thank you for that. Just highlighting both sides of the equation, the challenges and difficulties that come with the rains, as well as the state of the dam itself. And I think the issue around the state of the dam is something that we can take forward with the team, definitely. Because if there are cracks, the last thing we want is that, God forbid, in future we then say, someone should have said something. Someone should have done something. Let the department come through and explain what exactly is happening. What is the state of that dam and what dangers does it pose or does it not pose to communities around?
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Exceed again this morning with an impact likely this afternoon if nothing changes. It's the Mike 1 going south. Lane closures at Carr Street, just at the double-decker section there. So very slow coming from Parktown. Yesterday we saw traffic backed heavily during the afternoon drive time from around Grayston Drive in Sandton. So if that lane restriction stays there, it's always worth checking before you set south this afternoon. Likely to be busy all day, but obviously will peak with the bigger volumes in the afternoon. A crash coming into Sandton on Sandton Drive, just before Mari. So behind that, William Mandela backed up quite heavily towards Bryanston High School. In fact, the whole of Joburg still pretty busy for this time of morning. Crash on the M1 North near the N17 exit at Soweto, and the R21 has some construction back on it today between Pomona Road and the Benoni exit. So if you're leaving the airport heading north towards Pretoria, factor in some queue time there. The N1 still fairly static as well between Old Joburg Road and the New Road exit. And down into Durban, again looking at an all-day queuing situation on the N3. There's these rumble strips that have gone in on the construction zone between Pavilion and Spaghetti Junction. The traffic at this hour is backed up to Pavilion, beg your pardon, it's backed up to the M13 Paradise Valley. It'll probably stay like that most of today, and again, just get worse with the extra traffic that we get into that mix from this afternoon's peak period. So if you're going between Pinetown and Durban, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through, and if you're looking for alternative routes, or the M13 jams Westfield through Sherwood over that N2 construction, one of the options would be to off-ramp on the M7, go down, run north up the N2 and hook back into the N3 at Spaghetti Junction. You just keep yourself moving. Also crash Central Pinetown, the M7 going in very heavy up towards the M13 as well. Cape Town, a lot of roadworks on the Wetton Road, so Central Wetton very slow this morning, and the earlier crash on the N2 outbound at Rappenberg Road was cleared up and then recovery, and then now it's cleared again. So the N2 out towards the airport running nicely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a Health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
It takes a while before these arch rivals meet in the final. But when they do, everything stops. Nabi is confident to delight the Amakhosi fans.
If the fans love Kaizer Chiefs, automatically is love Nabi.
While the back-to-back victor, Rivero, chases the third consecutive title.
Whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent.
This is the Nedbank Cup final. Witness the Soweto Derby. Golden Black battles it out with Black and White on Saturday, 10 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Governance and service delivery failures at local government level remain firmly in the spotlight, with more and more people feeling that their municipalities, including metropolitan councils like Johannesburg, are increasingly failing to attend to basic issues like fixing water leaks, garbage collection, bylaw enforcement, potholes, traffic lights, and electricity outages. Often there's a sense of helplessness about it all, with many residents being, at their wits' end with unresponsive local officials. Well, an innovative new initiative, Fix Local, aims to change that. And to tell us more about it is Mark Haywood, who is a human rights and social justice activist of many, many years standing. Good morning to you, Mark, and thank you for your time. What is Fix Local? What kind of a solution is it, and how does it fit in around our demands for service delivery as well as accountability?
Good morning, Thulas, and thank you for having me. Fix Local is a new website and WhatsApp channel and application as well that allows residents, citizens anywhere in the country to find the quickest route to report local service delivery problems. If there is no action on those reports, to escalate them, and if there is still no action, to see what they can do to fix them themselves based upon the experiences of residents working together in other parts of the country. It's a very novel and, as you said, innovative and imaginative new platform.
Yeah.
For example, it allows you to geolocate your councillor. It provides you with the telephone number, the email address of your councillor. So it's intended really, as you say, to cut through that frustration, to give people more power in relation to their local municipalities, but also to make local municipalities more responsive and more accountable.
So what balance does it seek to strike? Is it more focused on, grievance airing, or more focused on partnership and roping in those local authorities and ensuring that they start paying attention, perhaps in a model similar to, in the consumer space, hellopeter.com, in a model similar to, Eskom, ESP, Eskom's a push, which started out as, and ended up being a partnership.
No, those are good examples. Yes, it is seeking partnership. In fact, I'm busy talking to the South African Local Government Association. What we're seeing is that there's a lot of grievances and a lot of gripes and a lot of protests. They don't always bring about change. Now, it's not that we should say to people that they must stop complaining, but the issue is, how do we start fixing? And that's why we call it Fix Local. So we're hoping that local authorities will welcome this and will work with residents to fix problems. We've all got a responsibility here. Yes, there's a duty by local government. It's a statutory duty, but we as residents, we as local community members also have a responsibility for our environment, for alerting municipalities and councils to problems and helping to be part of the fix. So yes, that is the spirit in which it's intended.
Yeah, so what's the call to action then, Mark, for anyone listening to us in order for this to work as a solution? What do we need to do?
Get online. We will be launching it next Wednesday, the 14th of May. It launches in 18 municipalities, but it's intended that it will spread throughout the country. Get online, use it, test it, let us know your experience with it, tell other people about it, forward it to other people, and let's make this work. That's really the call to action.
All right. Thank you for that. Mark Haywood, human rights and social justice activist. Remember the name? Fix Local. Fix Local. Let's get involved. Let's be active citizens and see that and see if we can't contribute to finding solutions, as well as exerting some accountability on the part of local government.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's end off this show by hearing more from you now. Let me play one or two of your voice notes.
Thulas, Chris in Camperdown. The fight between the DA and the ANC is just childish and really needs to come to an end. They need to come together and define a new policy-making mechanism for a cooperative governance. The state of workers in South Africa has deteriorated. The rate of underemployment is increasing, especially for women. The cost of living is high and taking away wages, and therefore what people earn is really does not make them to be able to meet the basic of cost that in order to make a living. Those are serious issues that people must be talking about.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and SAFM listeners. I just want to ask, is going to jail being punitive, or is going to jail being taken to a correctional facility to make someone a better person? I understand the argument of Miles Bodo. In the past, we used to have jails or prisons, but now we've got correctional facilities. So in the effort of correcting someone to be a better person, I really don't think it should be punitive. Thank you very much. This is TK Mnambit.
Yeah, hey, TK, that's really the debate, and I don't know if we will ever settle it, because it continues even in the theoretical spaces. Researchers and academics continue to debate that question. What do you emphasize? Do you emphasize the fact that just going to jail on its own, the curtailment of the freedoms and liberties of a person, that on its own is already punishment, and therefore you don't make the prisons to be as harsh as possible, and you maintain a modicum of, I don't want to use the word comfort, but basically livability in prisons? Or do you say people go to prison and they must still feel the impact of what they've done even when they're inside? That is a never-ending debate, and I don't think you and I, but I mean, it's always worth having that debate. That's it, really. That's where we have to leave it. That's our story for today. That's our full and final account to you for this morning, at least in lieu of your morning brief. But don't go anywhere, because more quality news and current affairs and talk programming continuing throughout the day here on SAFM, starting with the talking point coming up after the news.
Top stories: the Sawa Deputy Minister and the Presidency commends police for arrests in connection with missing journalist, and U.S. Education Department ends billions of dollars in research grants and other aid at Harvard University. Good morning, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Kenny Morolong, has commended police for the arrest of 4 people in connection with the disappearance of journalist Serero Ndlovu and his partner Zodwa Ndluli. The two went missing in February this year. Last Sunday, Morolong visited Ndlovu's family to offer government support. On the same day, police arrested 4 people. One is expected to appear in the Mamelodi Magistrates Court in the northeast of Pretoria this morning. The other 3 are expected to appear in the KwaMahlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga later this week. National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate.
The first suspect who is arrested is, according to investigations, the last to be in the company of the missing couple. The SAPS has since changed the missing persons case to a kidnapping and car hijacking case. Additional charges such as house robbery and being in possession of stolen property are likely to be added. The search is still on for the missing couple and for other suspects.
4 people have been killed in a collision between 2 vehicles on the N2 in Plettenberg Bay in the Western Cape. The crash happened this morning, the Provincial Mobility Department spokesperson Munira Ali.
We confirm an incident on the N2 at Kwanakotula intersection at Plettenberg Bay at 2 a.m. on 6th of May, where a bus and vehicle were involved in a collision. 4 fatalities are confirmed. All teams are currently on site. A stop-and-go is in place until the scene is cleared.
Today marks the first anniversary of the collapse of a building in George in the Western Cape. 34 people were killed and 20 others injured. A service will be held at the George Civic Centre where survivors and bereaved families will speak. 2 reports have been released. 1 will not be made public as this could jeopardize police investigations. The other has pointed fingers at the contractor and several officials from the National Home Builders Registration Council. Radzi Biodzva is a family member of Zimbabwean national Phineas Ndlovu, a deceased bricklayer.
What broke me even worse is what came after. Nothing. No answers, no support, no one took responsibility. We were left to pick up the shattered pieces by ourselves. and no one even acknowledged his life or death. I don't